Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to the Bourbon and BS podcast. I've got a couple of handsome gentlemen here in the garage. For those of you who are watching, well, you're all watching video because we're not doing the recording yet. This is episode 96, so welcome, everyone. It's back on Wednesdays like we've talked about. We plan on doing that other than the weeks of the holidays, but we will figure all that out going forward. We have Shawn Wilkinson on my left, stage right, and Kazmierczak again in the garage. How many episodes?
Always a good time to be here. I think this is 4 if my math is correct, but I'm not very good at it.
Yeah, I know. You're not very smart, but that's all right.
That's why you're in the middle.
You want to go ahead, Nate, and kind of go over a few of our sponsors for the video side of it so I can go ahead and share this.
So episode 96 is being brought to you first by Tinder Box at Easton for providing tonight's featured cigar, the Cohiba Blue. Our second sponsor is Altadis USA, which will be providing the H. Upman by AJ. And then our third sponsor, of course, is the BS Cigar Company. Got the BS Silvers in stock. Going to be a little bit of a delay on the golds, unfortunately, but we're still going to get them. Just, AJ, a little patience, please. A little patience. So, those are going to be the sponsors for tonight. What is everyone who is not driving right now, drinking and smoking, hopefully?
You should be watching Facebook Live while you're driving, really.
That's a good point,
I guess you could
too.
have it playing, yeah.
You could. Maybe not a good idea. Maybe not the smartest idea.
Well, you got the holders you can put in there. You pop onto the... where the air comes out, you know. I got one of those little Panda my wife has, so.
I'm just saying, I know semi-truck drivers that watch full movies while they're driving, so there's definitely people watching this while they're driving right now.
I don't want to know what movies truck drivers are watching. I've heard too many bad stories. There's reasons why you see certain stores along the major highways.
So when they're swerving, they're watching movies, probably. Something like that.
What kind of movies?
Well, I'll just leave it at that.
I've heard that sometimes they watch cartoons now, too.
I'm sure.
Just going to let that go.
All right. How was your guys' week for the video while I'm finishing sharing this?
Mine was good. Flew out to L.A. for a golf outing, and don't think I'm some jet setter. It just happened to be my company invited me, but it worked out well. A lot of fun. A lot warmer out there than it is here. It was kind of a disappointment to come back and see the gray skies and cold, but it's still good to be back home.
My week has been busy. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving and a good holiday, Black Friday, all that good stuff. I guess big news would be that Jennings Java just released Cannon Powder, the official collaboration with the Columbus Blue Jackets Artillery. It's a medium roast with a slight smoky finish, just like firing from a cannon. Really, really excited about that. We've got that up on our website right now, but
Nice.
That's really the biggest thing going on right now.
Fantastic.
And then, of course, being here with you, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, we all have highlights in our days, and I know this is one for you, so that's fantastic. Hopefully we have good sound tonight. We're going to get started here as soon as Nate's ready to start the actual audio recording. And please like, share, all that good stuff. If you guys are interested, we appreciate all the we got quite a response early. So going to get started with the actual show. Share it. Tell people about it. You can start watch parties now on Facebook if you want to. Just share that you're watching it. See if anyone else is interested. If you guys have any groups that you guys like to share this stuff to, I already share it to a lot of cigar and whiskey and beard groups now and everything else, you know, and they're going to love you.
I'm so excited. There's beard groups now?
I hope the camera's picking up that blonde. You ready there, Nate? All right. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. Episode 96 of the Bourbon and BS podcast. We've got, I just did the intro. You got it, really? Dustin interrupted the intro, so welcome, everyone. And Dustin Bovey is in the garage. He is watching the Facebook Live. So that's a good point to bring up. Thank you. That's a real solid opening there for the audio. We've got a couple of special guests here. I got Kazmierczak back in the garage, in the studio, whatever you want to call it. He thinks 4 times. Ish.
I think so.
4-ish times.
Not enough. Let's say that. Love being
You
here.
ran out of fingers.
Yes.
To count on, so you're going to say 4 or 5. And we also have Shawn Wilkinson, who is joining us for the first time in front of the camera. He's been on the mic recent episodes, kind of in the garage. He is local to Columbus, Ohio, and we'll get into him and find out a little bit more about him. And he's a big part of what we've been talking about. I put it out there on all of our social media. Hopefully you guys will tune in to our Facebook page, obviously, our Instagram, anything like that. We're on YouTube, the audio podcast and everything else. But he's got a heck of a story, and I think we can all relate to some of it, maybe not to the extent, but we can actually relate and learn something from it. So I'm looking forward to that. We have our sponsors I want to thank, and we're going to be doing this part 1 and part 2. AJ, you haven't done this yet, but starting a few weeks ago, we actually started doing part 1. So for those of you guys listening on the audio, this is part 1. Make sure to check out part 2 as well. Part 1 is going to be the whiskey and the cigars. And with that, I want to thank our sponsors. So we have Tinder Box at Easton, who provided our featured cigar this week, which is the Cohiba Blue. And we're going to be smoking that. Everyone lit up, I believe, so far, which is good. And then also Altadis USA for providing our second weekly cigar, which is tonight is, again, one of our favorites, H. Upman Nicaragua by A.J. Fernandez. Definitely a hit at our store, and I know it is across the country as well. And then also BS Cigar Company for providing, we've got a couple BS Silvers floating around the garage. I see a BS Cutter. I think there's a BS Lighter somewhere around here as well. I do have some bad news. For those of you waiting on that gold, we've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. We will hopefully have it in time for St. Patrick's Day. But for those of you who wanted it under the Christmas tree, not happening. For those of you who want to ring in the new year, not happening. But we have the BS Silver to do that with. So thank you, BS Cigar Company, for providing the BS Silvers floating around here. Guys, how was your week?
Well, mine's pretty good. Enjoyed Thanksgiving with the fam, and it's always important. Some friends as well. Did a little traveling over the weekend. Played some golf. Got back home. Just good to be home and be here with you guys. It's always a treat.
It's good to have you on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My week was great. Thanksgiving, we went to the girlfriend's parents' place on Wednesday. We hit 3 different Thanksgivings on Thursday.
In one day.
It was fantastic.
How many servings did you have per household?
When you're trying to gain weight, it works really,
answer
really
the question.
well.
What would you have? How many platefuls?
So we went to mom's side first.
Sure.
I had 2 plates there.
Nice.
And then
Good start.
mom makes some incredible, like, soft lemon cookies. Probably had 5 of those. Went to dad's side next. That one was a real quick one. So actually had just a glass of Buffalo Trace while I was there.
You just had whiskey.
Yeah. Just
all right.
Slight dessert before this. I guess that would be the next meal. And then we went to the girlfriend's extended family and had, what did we have? We actually had Italian subs, a lot of like finger food, and it was just really great to kind of hawk over all of that. And
Did
just
you pull up
pick
a
at
chair to the table or the counter?
No, because the pure Kentucky that her cousin brought, big shout out to Jimmy, was on the counter, and the food was at a different counter, so I was kind of gravitating back and forth.
Did you talk to anyone, or are you just eating?
Oh, did I talk to anyone? Come on.
I don't know if those of you that know AJ, he's a bit of a talker.
Never heard that in my
You want to
life.
crack that bottle?
Absolutely.
Let's
Cannot
pop that
wait.
cork. So we are drinking tonight Rabbit Hole Heigold, spelled Heigold. That's a nice pop. That's a nice cork pop. So you want to pour a couple
Yep,
here?
I'll go ahead.
Serve it up, bartender.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pour mine, and then
Okay.
I'll let you guys pour while I kind of talk about it. Does that work?
Yeah, that works. Absolutely. So we're going to start with the Rabbit Hole Heigold. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
I feel like you have the Heigold.
Heigold. Well, I mean, it is named after a German immigrant.
Oh, there you go.
So I think Heigold is very fitting. So
Shawn, here you go.
very, very excited about this. So kind of short backstory. I'll try to be short. Went down to Louisville, Kentucky with my brother Logan and my good friend Angelo, who's actually been on the podcast.
He's been on twice, right?
Yes.
We did the supplement and vitamins and all that stuff, and then we also did a All Eyes on You, which was about live performance, being in front of excellent guest.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
excellent dude.
And so we go down there. We went to a couple distilleries, and believe it or not, this newer distillery, Rabbit Hole, actually caught our eye. Very modern in their style and everything that they do. Well, they were actually in the process of going through a huge rebranding. And basically the entire idea behind the rebranding revolved around paying homage back to Louisville. So,
Which is where they're located.
Which is where they're
Yeah, that's
located,
awesome.
downtown
Yeah.
Louisville.
Absolutely.
Highly recommend everybody check the place out. They've got great bartenders and great, just knowledgeable people. But they now have 4 different bourbons and whiskeys. The regular bourbon, their standard, is now named Cave Hill, named after, I believe, the cemetery. It's a famous cemetery where a lot of Louisville legends are buried. So it's paying homage back to that. Derringer is their bourbon finished in sherry casks. And if I'm not mistaken, that is named after the female presence involved with the upbringing of Louisville. A lot of them, back in the day, they didn't carry crazy big guns. They all carried Derringers. Yeah. And that's, the female aspect to it. The sherry cask gives it a sweet note. Very, very good.
Is that the red one?
Yeah. The red kind of mauve looking one.
Okay.
And then the green one is now called Boxer Grail, named after Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Slightly famous boxer from Louisville.
Famous.
And that's actually Angelo's favorite rye whiskey.
Okay.
And I looked a lot of places, and I have not seen the Heigold released in Ohio. So, 1, I had to buy it because it's my favorite of the 4. We did a tasting there.
Yeah.
And 2, it's always fun to have something that you can't get in Ohio. And so the Heigold is their bourbon, is their high rye bourbon. So it's actually 70% corn, 25% malted rye, and 5% malted barley. 47.5% ABV. It's retailing at $70 right now. I personally,
How much?
70.
70. Okay.
And we'll get into tasting and all that, but I personally will pay $70 for this bottle every day.
Now, have you had it?
Yes.
Before tonight?
Yes.
You bought 2 bottles?
No, I bought 1.
Okay.
I had it, but I bought a hat. So I had to get the Rabbit Hole hat. The people there are phenomenal.
So what does having a hat have to do with trying this?
Nothing at all. The buying the bottle has to do
I've had
with,
it before. I haven't cracked this
all
bottle.
about
I did not
swag.
buy 2, but I got a hat.
Buying the bottle has to
Right.
do with how awesome the whiskey was. Buying the hat has to do with how amazing the people at Rabbit Hole are.
That's a nice hat.
It's swag too.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
You gotta,
Absolutely.
You got to rep.
And then, so why Heigold? It's named for Christian Heigold. He was a German immigrant who moved to Louisville in 1850. He's a stonecutter by trade, and he built a mansion in the Point neighborhood of the city, decorating it and a lot of other aspects of Louisville with different immigrant patriotic carvings and epigrams, including the bust of President James Buchanan. So very, very cool stuff with Christian Heigold.
Yeah. A lot of history in Louisville.
Yeah, very rich in history, rich in bourbon too.
Yeah, it turns out. So you say it's a high rye
Correct.
bourbon. I mean, you guys, Nate and AJ and Dustin, you guys are a little bit more familiar. How does a 70-25-5 stack up to your typical, straight bourbon? Like, what's the mash bill of the typical Rabbit Hole straight bourbon?
Well, I can find that out.
Do you guys have any insight on that? I mean, high rye, I'm expecting it to be a little bit higher than that, I guess.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well.
70% corn is...
The first thing that came to my mind, which is also a Louisville distillery, is Angel's Envy.
Right.
And Angel's Envy is a 70% corn, but it's only, I think, 12% rye.
Okay, so 20...
So yeah, I mean,
or
so
25 would be
25 is
high,
gonna
double,
be,
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be double. But yeah, I was definitely expecting something at least 30 or 35.
Yeah.
It varies on the barley content
Yeah.
for the rye.
You can get that mic to Dustin, or Dustin if you want to get up there. So everyone can hear you.
Ah, okay. I've got the mash bill whenever we're ready for the regular bourbon.
So it depends on the barley content because this has such a lower barley content to rye ratio.
Okay.
It's considered a high rye.
Okay.
Maker's Mark is 72 to 75% corn. Woodford's around that 72 mark.
Okay.
They're kind of a higher corn. So 25% rye is
It's high
fairly high.
for
yeah.
a bourbon. Okay.
For the
So
most
so
part.
it is accurate. Go ahead, AJ.
So their straight bourbon, which is now named Cave Hill, it's their black label.
Yeah.
It's 70% corn, 10% malted wheat, 10% malted barley, and 10% honey malted barley.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very
That's
good
all
as
over the
well.
place, yeah.
But the Heigold just really, really spoke to me when we did the tasting.
All right. So what do we think of it? Like, what do you, Shawn? Have you had much of it? Have you had a couple sips?
I love it. I want more.
2 thumbs up. You want?
Yeah,
you
well,
got some more in your
what's,
glass.
You know what's
I mean, you don't have
different
to-
though? Well, I know we want to share, but I've never had one. And something comes out like you take it, and it's kind of got that strong coming out your nose, like it's like a hit. I don't know what is that.
So that's actually, I have no idea the technical term, but I love a bourbon that you can sip. It's smooth. You get the sweetness from the corn, but then there's that little bit that creeps into the back of the nose.
Yeah.
And I love that about a bourbon, and that's actually one of the main reasons why I went with the Heigold instead of the Cave Hill. The Cave Hill is just a very smooth, very sweet bourbon. It's got a good finish, but it doesn't have that little, for lack of a better term, oomph at the end.
I kind of enjoy the sweet, smooth, and the oomph at the end. I'm kind of a fan of that. Well, fan of the whiskey.
You seem like a guy that likes a little oomph at the end.
I don't know what that means. It's the high
It's
rye.
the high
coming
rye
through.
that makes the
Yeah.
nose tingle.
So if you
Yeah,
guys
it's got a
didn't
little
hear
bit of
that, Dustin just said that it's the high rye that causes that little, spice. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's
there's
a
definitely
good
a
term.
spice, but it is at the very very end. Mm-hmm. It's not like cinnamon or anything like that.
It's real subtle. It just kind of creeps
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. There's a little bit of that sensation, if you will. But what do you guys? I mean, AJ, you like it obviously.
Yeah.
Do you think it's hot or is that just the spice?
So
I know it's only like 40. Would you say it's 43?
47.5.
47. So it is a little bit up there.
But I
Yeah, it's a
really
little up there.
I really don't think it's hot. Like when
No.
this might just be my palate, but like when I think of hot as far as like regular bourbons and whiskeys go, I think a lot of like the Dickel range is a naturally hot bourbon. Like the Dickel 12 that I brought as
It's got a little burn to it.
Yeah.
This one, I mean, I think you actually did describe it really well. The way, like, it does have some sweetness. It's got a little bit of that corn to it, obviously, and then it's got that oomph at the end. Bobby Hirschman says, couldn't have picked a better way to sell it. I think it should be on there. I mean, they're doing a great job. Maybe feedback on the new branding for Rabbit Hole. If you guys are listening out there, or you maybe write a letter to them, AJ, and just talk about the oomph.
Yeah, that how much we like the oomph.
Yeah.
Well,
get away from this history of this amazing person that came here and did all the things you talked about.
Right.
Just call this one the oomph.
The oomph.
Yeah.
Go down the rabbit hole. At the end, it's the oomph.
Little sweetness with some oomph. That's
Yeah.
all you need.
So with the Rabbit Hole, I mean, to go back to that, all I've seen typically, at least in Ohio, is going to be that reddish, which is the sherry cask, right? And then the green is the straight.
That's the
That's
rye.
the rye.
Yeah.
Do we have another one in Ohio that they're selling?
So we have 3.
The
and
straight
there's
bourbon.
4 total.
What color is a straight bourbon?
Black. That's the
Okay.
Cave Hill.
Okay.
That's the one with the honey malted barley.
Yeah.
Which is unique in itself.
Sounds good.
Rabbit Hole's definitely some different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I like it, just because of the fact
Probably.
it gives you more to think about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, aside from that, you got this bright blue label. You know me, I'm marketing. I love it. You got this bright blue label. It's got Heigold written in gold. I love what would that, if it's not embossed, if it's raised, it is.
That's embossed, yeah.
I thought embossed was when it's sunk in.
It's just, I think embossing it's kind of a push in.
Either
so.
way, there's a cool
Yeah.
rabbit on the front.
Let me see the front. Let me see this rabbit you're talking about. And the hole.
Yeah, there's a hole. Also, that has its own story too, which is really hilarious.
The hole?
Yeah.
All right, go after it.
So basically,
Better.
the owner of Rabbit Hole, I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong. I think it's Kaveh. It's Kaveh. But fantastic guy, very, very successful. He actually is an immigrant from Iran, I believe.
Okay.
And he basically left. Has a wife. Basically stopped what he was doing and was like, I'm going to do bourbon, and I'm going to pay great homage back to Louisville. And they started down this journey, and his wife kept talking about how you're just going down the rabbit hole now. You're going farther and farther down the rabbit hole. And he decided to name, almost like a, haha, we're doing it. He named the brand Rabbit Hole.
In spite of his wife.
In spite of his wife, which is hilarious.
I'm sure
to
they're
me.
happy, though.
I'm sure they're very happy. And I could be wrong about this, but they also do a really, really good gin.
Rabbit Hole Gin.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the reason they do a gin is because the wife is not into bourbon and whiskey, and he wanted to make something that his wife would enjoy.
Nice.
Very good guy.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet him someday.
Any chance you work in sales?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Seems like it. You should be a rep for them, man.
So we'll get into a little bit. For those of you guys who don't know what AJ does, he has many hats, actually. You like hats. We got it. Yeah, that's cute. He does. He's into the marketing and everything. AJ, why don't you tell him what you do?
So
for those, we talked about it on previous podcasts,
Right.
but go ahead and bring everyone up to speed here.
I'll try to be short with it, but basically when I was a senior in college, myself and what is now a good friend, we ended up meeting at an ignition program. You either had an entrepreneurial idea or you had the tools to help someone. And I came to it and I was like, I like to talk, I like communications, reading people, marketing, social media, things like that. And Daniel, my business partner, he got up and he spoke about his passion for coffee in a way that there's very few people you meet that you can just feel were born to do something. Sure. And from that instant, I knew I had to get into business with this kid. I say kid, we're only 2 years apart. But we basically created Jennings Java coffee roasters. And it kind of took off his sophomore year, my senior year, November 16. And we've worked our way up. We now have our own roasting facility in Columbus on South Front Street. We do private labeling for different restaurants. Huge shout out to Fido at Easton, Fido Irish Pub, and then Fido Pub and Kitchen in Dublin.
Yeah.
They both support us, and actually big thanks to Steve, because Steve kind of initiated all of that.
That's you guys did just fine. Don't worry.
Steve started it, but we took it and ran with it, and I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I greatly appreciate
it up
that.
for you. You're fine. Yeah, that's great. In fact, one of our guys, Kumar, that comes into the shop during the morning sometimes.
Name sounds very familiar. I would know him if I saw him.
He comes in occasionally, and it's, just to give you a little bit, I was going to tell you earlier, I forgot, but it's cool. And tell them how they can get it. But he went over to Fido. He's like, I'm getting coffee. Should I go to Starbucks or like who has it around here? I said, just go next door to Fido. Came back over. They had given him 2 cups, first of all, of the coffee, and he took a couple sips of it, and he's like, dude, I'm a coffee snob, and he's like, this is good coffee. So he's gonna probably get a hold of you guys to
greatly
get some
appreciate it.
He likes some Nicaraguan coffee, actually, but
so we currently don't have any Nicaraguan in, but that's not to say we won't ever have
no,
it.
he liked whatever Fido had, so
so right now we've got
how can he get a hold of you?
Just contact us directly. The easiest thing, and we actually lucked out on this, all forms of social media, I say all forms, it's just Facebook and Instagram, is
all 2
at Jennings Java.
Yeah.
And it just send us a direct message, a comment. You can send us an email. My email is what is my email? Andrew K at JenningsJava.com.
It's your name.
I have I just have too many emails.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's fantastic. And so yes, he does, like with sales and marketing. Shawn, to your point, he also drinks a lot of coffee.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. You read that one pretty clearly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, Shawn, why don't you tell us what you do? Introduce yourself before we get into the second part here too.
Yeah.
We'll dive into that.
My name is Shawn Wilkinson. Friend, I met Steve probably a couple years ago. I used to go into Tinder Box a lot, and he was always the guy that always kind of helped me out, and just started kind of hitting it off from then. We actually live in the same neighborhood, so if I have a little bit to drink, I can always just walk home, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I work in aviation, private jets. I'm a flight dispatcher for a fleet of our jets for a company I work for. I've been in aviation since 1991, kind of worked my way up into the industry. And now I do a lot of logistics operations, dealing with the pilots, dealing with, if a plane breaks, how do we resolve the issue? If the weather's bad, you got to learn all the regulations to the FAA. And I've been doing it for so long, it's just I've kind of fell into it and have taken off with it. I work from home, which is nice.
That is nice.
It's I work for a great company. Shout out to Jet 60. That's who I work for now. They're great people. They treat you like a family, and I think that goes a long way, especially in this industry for people that know about it. It can be pretty cutthroat, but there's some good companies out there, and I've been fortunate enough to be with one now that I feel like it is a family. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good for me. It's good for my wife and my daughter. So
yeah, we're gonna talk about them here in a little
bit.
Yeah. So
yep.
So all right, bourbon I think is a winner.
Oh yeah,
I like it. It's unique.
But the question that we usually ask, but we don't, is this for you or Shawn for you a $70 bottle?
Oh,
Would you
I hate that
pay?
question.
I
How about we
love
split
it. It's a good question because it forces you to take into account.
I would let my friend buy it for $70 and bring it over to the garage.
We could
and then
split
put
it.
on a podcast.
Let's all take.
It's a great price.
We'll just
$20
get a
a
community
pot.
pot.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
We still have. It's so funny. I mean, like, we see the bottles up there. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 in waiting, actually, for a week that we don't have a special guest bottle.
We can kill those too.
No. You have to come back.
Oh,
You have to
okay.
come back.
Are you inviting me back?
I'll text you.
Don't call us. We'll call you.
$70. Go ahead. Yeah. $70. Shawn, what do you think? $70. What else are you putting in that bracket, I guess? What else is $70 out there?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Mastersons? Bookers. All right. Shawn, what do you think? 70.
I'd have to split it with someone.
Yeah.
There's enough to go around, especially with two people.
Yeah. You don't always have to drink the whole bottle.
Well, I feel like we do when we're here, so I just
It
thought that was a norm.
It happens.
I've already initially I told you we're not killing this, but
Right.
then as we all took a pour, I kind of went back to the fact that bourbon is meant to be enjoyed around community and friends. So if we kill this bottle, if we're
We
being
all
honest,
owe you 1, 2, 3.
no,
Yeah.
if
I'll
we
give you
kill
$20.
this bottle, that's absolutely fine because the fact, honestly, I forgot how much I enjoyed this.
All right.
So yeah, we'll
I
have a couple
appreciate
more
that.
pours
I
out of it.
appreciate that. That's amazing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever, if somebody's told me once, and people out there, do you guys ever take the end of your cigar and dip it in a little bit of whiskey and then just kind of get the flavor of both the cigar
don't.
and the whiskey?
I don't.
Is that one person
I've
told me?
heard
or
of
anybody,
that.
Anybody ever heard of doing that, or is that blasphemy?
I've heard of that,
industry,
but
or-
I've never done it.
It's not blasphemy. I mean, you can do whatever the fuck you want with your cigar and your whiskey, honestly. So
You paid for
yeah,
it.
you do whatever you want. Now, for me, I don't. I always say I just smoke and then I drink.
Right.
I don't have to dip it in there to put the two together. That all mixes inside there. What's that?
So not to go back to
go
comparing
ahead.
and contrasting, but I really like Ryan Jones. He said it's Blanton's expensive. So they are right around the same
Yeah,
price
60.
point.
Depending on the state, 60 and 70. Is it 55 right now?
And
Did you
I-
find it?
And I'm hoping I don't step on
Yeah.
any toes, but I would buy the Heigold before I would buy Blanton's.
I do like Bland's. I think Bland's gets a tough rap anymore. It's tough to find. It's a cool bottle. It was something that everyone liked, and now it's like, I don't know. I think it's overhyped. But I don't think anything's really changed as far as that goes. I think that the hype is maybe it's not the best bottle out there, but for $55, I think it's tough.
53 and change.
What's going on with the video there? All right, good. Keep an eye on that, please.
We got to talk about the cigar.
We are going to, yeah. I think $70 for this bottle. I think it's a fair price. I think it's a good bottle. It's unique. I'm hard pressed to spend $70 on any bottle, but this would be one that, since I've had it, and if I was going somewhere and I wanted to get a nice bottle that I don't think a lot of people have had, and that they like whiskeys, but they're not like super like whiskey geeks, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's kind of like
Absolutely.
it's a solid bottle that they probably will not get themselves. You know, like I went over to for Thanksgiving. I went over to my brother's in-laws, and his father-in-law likes whiskey a lot, likes bourbon. And he's got a small collection of, like maybe 4 or 5 bottles, and he likes Elijah Craig. He had, I think, an Angel's Envy there. But I brought over Eagle Rare because I know he hasn't had he went to Buffalo Trace, but when I brought over Eagle Rare, I was like, because he liked the H. Taylor, so a small batch when I brought it over. So I brought over Eagle Rare. Most places you go, like that are really into bourbon, they're like, oh, Eagle Rare, that's nice. Like, it's good. He loved it. He had never had it. So that's something that if I'm going over there, I might, pick something like this up and be like, this is something different. Let's crack it open. Let's have some, and either leave it there or take it back and then bring it back over the next time. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I think 70 is not bad.
Well, Christmas is right around the corner, so you
That's
never
right.
know. You got to ask Santa.
Ask
May
Santa
hook you
for
up.
booze.
Steve's-
There's that meme
Steve's
going around.
getting
You know
out there.
what? Leave him some booze to take, and then maybe he'll give you some too.
Don't kid yourself. Steve's getting coal. He has for the last 70 years.
That does 70. I've gotten it a couple times. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Cigars. Cohiba Blue. So this deal here, the Cohiba Blue. By the way, this is if you guys see the pictures that Kyle B. Smith photography. I thought you shortened it. No, yeah, I did. To what? Photo? Yeah, there you go. Kyle B. Smith photo on Instagram takes all our pictures. You'll see this band on here. It's a blue and white band, says Cohiba. They have just now rebranded this. They're rebranding it. If you guys have seen the Cohiba Connecticut, it's a white band, a little more bold, a little flashier. So now the red dot, which is probably the most well-recognized one from Cohiba for the Dominican Republic, the blue one as well, and the black are all going to have different bands on it. Me personally, I'm torn. I think I like this. Like I was like, man, this is so boring for a Cohiba that's got a great name to it. You know what I mean? Well recognized. I was like, man. But when they put the new ones on, at first I was like, oh, these are great. And then I looked at it compared to this, and I was like, I don't know. I kind of like the old ones now. So the Cohiba Blue came out in, I believe, 2017. So it was about 2 to 3 years ago. It came out, and they kind of brought this Cohiba out in a light of, we had Miguel on recently where we were talking about the Juarez that we were smoking and how that was like a value-driven product. And, the MSRP is around $7 to $8 on that one. This is a value-driven one for Cohiba, but it's coming in like on our shelf about $12.95 for the Toro. So that's all relative with that because you think about the Cohiba, like the red dot for the same size, you're at $20. The Connecticut's, you're at 20, 21. The blacks, same thing. So the rest of their line, you're going to be, you're not double, but you're pushing it.
See, so I know you hate doing the would you pay for it at this price, but it's all relative. If this is coming in for $12, it's got the Cohiba name. It's obviously got the Cohiba quality because it's, incredibly smooth in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'll pay $12 for this for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For a medium cigar, it's very smooth. It's almost like you could be fooled to think it was a mild at that point.
Yeah, I'd consider this medium, and so Rich Bax brings up a point here. Wish they would discontinue the Dominican Cohiba. Would prefer it remain a Cuban-only product. It's interesting. The trademark for the Cohiba, the Dominican Republic, actually, so the Cohiba in the Cuban side, Fidel basically had that as his only cigar. Like that was his brand. So it was never sold actually as a Cuban brand until this was trademarked in the United States for the DR side of it. It's interesting because I think there's a lot of that, with Rich saying that Cohiba is a little different because General Cigar owns Cohiba cigars as opposed to like Altadis, who was our sponsor. We have an H. Upman here. We have the Monte Cristos. We have the Romeo Julietas. That same parent company actually has partial ownership in Habanos SA. So you can track that all the way up. Cohiba, it's a name. It's a name that they use. It definitely, I would say to Rich's point, it's interesting. I think they did piggyback a little bit on the success of Cohibas as time has gone on. Yeah. But it definitely is some of General's top factories, top rollers, top tobacco. There might be a little bit of marketing there to it. You know what I mean? Sure. Like if you put a Partagas band on this, would it sell the same? You know what I mean?
I think that's a very, very fair and valid point. If someone, because even people that aren't necessarily into cigars still know the Cohiba name.
Yeah, typically, yeah.
And so if they can come in and find out, oh my goodness, I can actually get a Cohiba for 12 instead of 20.
Yeah.
I think this is going to kind of very much so appeal to that crowd. I think this, I don't know why I thought of this, but I think this would make a fantastic groomsman gift, for instance, because they're still getting the Cohiba name. Like I said, the quality is there. It's a very easy smoke for even people that aren't necessarily into cigars, and they see it and they're like, "Oh man, it's a Cohiba.
Yeah.
Wow."
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's would you pay $20 for a cigar? We pay $12.95. They're a little bit closer in range until you get to like that $30 to $100 for a cigar thing. Mm-hmm. And again, this is a one-time sitting as opposed to $70 for a bottle of maybe a one-time sitting for us, or if you're drinking alone. Mm-hmm. But typically it's not. You're going to have a bottle for more than one sitting.
So this is where your expertise comes in. Shannon asked flavor, spice, fullness.
Eat.
I
think he meant. I think it meant etc. But he wrote flavor or fullness.
Shannon, aren't you supposed to be over here?
All right, Steve. Let's see you take a bite out of it.
Ha ha. I don't know. So for me, the Cohiba Blue, I think it does do well by the Cohiba name for sure. I think that this is something that construction wise, it's like I can look at the way that the ash, it's got a good draw, but AJ, yours is, see how it's kind of flaking off a little bit, on the sides and stuff. I don't think that's an indication necessarily of a bad roll or anything like that, but it's not as clean of a burn as some that may be out there. Shawn, yours is kind of the same way. If you look at it, it's kind of mushroom out a little bit, stuff like that. But I don't think that is something that's going to indicate whether or not you're going to enjoy the smoke.
Awesome.
The flavor is good. And I was torn on it because I'm not normally a big so the makeup of this is Honduran wrapper and binder from the same area, and then you got filler, Honduran, Nicaraguan, and Dominican. So you're hitting the big major three on that. So it's an interesting blend that they did here, I think, for the Cohiba stuff. It's a lot of Honduran tobacco, where the red dot's going to have that Cameroon wrapper on it. Go ahead, AJ. You look like you want to.
Well, I was just going to say, so just from previous podcasts, again, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
I just took a quick sip of the Rabbit Hole, kind of wished it around, made sure that it got all over my palate, and then went straight to my cigar. And it for me, I like the fact that I feel like the cigar enhances the rye in the bourbon.
Yeah, I think that's because there's a little bit of like that kind of warm spice cederiness in the cigar. I don't know if you're getting that.
Absolutely.
But, it's medium. So to Shannon out there, flavor, I'd say that's a little bit of it. I mean, you got just a little bit of spice, but it's not a pepper. There's no pepper as far as in the retro hail. Very smooth. I get kind of like I said, that kind of woodsy, cedary type of a flavor there. And a little bit of that warm spice that I think, and that could be coming back and forth between the high rye bourbon from Rabbit Hole and the Cohiba here.
And Shawn, maybe you can agree or disagree with this. I like the fact that you get those notes that Steve's talking about, but everything is very subtle and balanced. It's not like anything, stands out more than the other.
Right. Yeah. Usually you got this is one where you put it down, usually have more flavor in your mouth after you smoke certain cigars. Mm-hmm. This one, that usually it's, you feel something in your mouth like, oh, there's the spice there. There's really nothing, which is not a bad thing.
On this cigar?
Yeah. It's very, like you said, subtle, I guess, if there's anything on it.
It's almost like it's a clean smoke.
Yeah.
Like it's got a very clean finish to it.
I feel like if I wake up tomorrow morning, my breath won't smell bad, but I'm sure it will anyway.
I'm sure your wife would have something different to say about that.
It just depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up with Cohiba, while we're talking about the cigar, when was the last time either of you two had a Cohiba?
Dominican. I'm honored. This is my first Cohiba.
Ever. Interesting.
If we're being honest, I
would hope so, yeah.
I never wanted to pay the $20 price point.
Okay.
Now,
Shawn?
I have to admit, the last Cohiba, or Cohibas I've ever smoked were Cuban. working in the aviation industry.
Yeah.
When pilots fly down to the islands,
Yeah.
I'll set them up at
Absolutely.
a good hotel. If they bring me back some Cubans, they know where to hide them in the plane. Well, now you can bring them back now, but back then when you couldn't.
Yeah.
Hope no customs agents are listening right now. But anyway,
You're
it's-
fine.
Yeah, but it's I've always had them like that, and I've had pilots too where they would have like a little book to say which are real and which were fake, so they could go to these places and say,
Yeah.
all right, you're full of shit. This is not,
Typically, when you're buying Cuban anything, you want to buy them from Habanos SA,
Yeah.
from Casa del Habano. So, I said from a Casa del Habano, even the knockoffs are going to say Habanos SA on it. That's the company, right? But typically, to be sure you're getting it, you walk into a Casa del Habano, whether it's in Cuba or other countries, that's coming straight from Habanos SA. There should be no question whether or not it's real or fake. If you're buying it in the same store that's selling T-shirts and magnets,
Like Mexico.
that is not a real Cuban. It could be Cuban tobacco, but chances are it's not even that.
You forgot coffee mugs
Or
and
on a
hats.
beach, the guy on the beach is selling you a box of 10 Monte Cristos for $30. Those are not real.
Buy it, it's
They're
a
real
steal.
cigars. It is a good deal.
When
I
they
had,
start,
I had a guy on. I think I told this vacation. My buddy Chad. We were smoking cigars. I brought a bunch of BS and a couple other ones down to. I think it was Jamaica, or forget which country we were in. But sure enough, the guy walks down the street. He's like, or down the beach, and he's, "Hey man, you think those are real?" I was like, "No, absolutely not." So then, like the next day, we're at the pool, and he's smoking one, and it's like the Monte Cristo band is like basically misprinted. Like, doesn't say it wrong, but it's like not lined up right.
Sure.
Like the whole thing is it's like basically smeared and all that stuff. And I was like, "What'd you pay for?" He's like, $30 for 10. I was like, "You like it?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're good then."
yeah.
Like like he's half drunk already at like noon, and he's smoking one. I was like, "Hey man, enjoy. You look great."
I went to Tijuana once, and they're like, when they start bargaining with you on the price of cigar, $20, and you walk away. All right, 15, no 10, $8 now, and you're like, okay, well, that's
Yeah.
They must just have a really good profit margin.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Everything's profit when it's off the back of a truck. Jesus. So I want to say this about the Cohiba stuff while we're talking about the cigar, and I think it's interesting. Monte Cristos, Upmans, all the legendary names. General Cigars also has Punch, Partagas. Those are owned by them. What's that? Well, I'm talking about the Cuban ones. You know what I mean? So they have some of these big ones, and we have a couple people on the feed, and I hear it in the store also. Being in retail in this industry, is that you take the Cohiba, take the name comparison out of it. You know what I mean? I think there's something that with some of these big brands they get. It's kind of like the way of again the bourbons we've talked about. We've talked about this with some other ones, but I think you get away, like try the cigar and just like take the band off and smoke it and see if you like it. I mean, it's something where I don't think that the General Cigars puts out a bad product, but obviously smoke what you like. But we had Ryan Jones, you were mentioning him on earlier. So I met Ryan Jones actually through another podcast last night, and then he and I were messaging back and forth, and I got something I'm going to share about that in the second part. But he's like, hey, I said, what do you like, mild, medium, or full body? And he's like, I'm kind of embarrassed to say I don't really know. I said, well, then smoke them all. You know what I mean? Just start trying stuff, because there are people that, like you, AJ, because of price, or if you hear something that, oh, it's Cohiba, it's not the real thing, it's not. It's like it's completely different, or people think it's overpriced, and it's like, when was the last time you actually smoked one? And did you like it or not like it? Was it a construction thing? Look at it the way that people like rate other cigars. You might like some of the more boutique ones a little bit more. You might like something like that. But I definitely encourage everyone to, next time you're in a retail store, brick and mortar, or if you're ordering online or whatever, try something that you never have tried. Cohiba, Punch, some of the big names. They're big names for a reason. It's not just the Cuban heritage behind the names. There's, like the H. Upman stuff. This one with the blue is made by A.J. Fernandez.
So 2 things with that. One, I'm going to brag about you guys for a little bit.
Beautiful.
There's a reason that I go to Tinder Box at Easton.
Why is that?
And that's because fortunately, before Pickaway County or the city, or Franklin County or the city of Columbus decided to crack down and make it 21.
Now it's the state of Ohio, and it's sweeping the nation.
It's terrible, absolutely terrible. Well, that's a story for a different time. But since I've been coming into you guys, since I was 18, you guys have always been incredibly knowledgeable. You've taken the time with every customer, no matter how long I've been in there or whatever. And you, Brian, Nate, Ryan, Todd, everybody that works there is fantastic. And I urge everyone, Columbus or around, if you're in Columbus, go there because of the fact that I go in there, and I've been going in there since I was 18, and I go in there every single time, and what do I say? I say, give me something I've never had before.
You say other things, though. I mean,
well, the gist is, the gist is,
it's usually really rude at
that
first,
I never want to try the same thing twice. Does it hurt your feelings?
No, I don't really have feelings, so it doesn't really hurt them. I mean,
But
you gotta have them.
What I'm getting at is you got to try all these different things, and then the second part to that, kind of like what you were getting at, I read, and maybe I'm completely off, but I read a little while ago that way back in the day, people would actually buy cigars and intentionally, out of respect, take the bands off, so that no matter if you're smoking a $25 smoke and I'm smoking a $5 smoke and Shawn's smoking a $10, $15 smoke, we're all on equal playing field. We're talking about the smoke itself, not talking about just the brand. And so I like that aspect as well. And I save all of them.
Yeah, you want to smoke the cigar and not smoke the band. I mean, that's kind of the way of looking at it, is because you're smoking it for the tobacco. You know what I mean? You're smoking it for the flavor. I do get some people's points about the fact that, $20 for a cigar, you may not like it. It's all, again, relative, like the bottle thing. $70 for a bottle. Is it worth it? I mean, if you want it, then that's what it's priced, and you really like it, then yeah, it's worth the $70. You want to compare it to something else, and you compare a Cohiba, $12.95. I look, what else can I smoke for $12.95? Would I like to smoke a My Father Le Bijou? Would I like to smoke a Tatuaje? Would I like to smoke, an Aroa? I would say, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be smoking something other than this cigar. But I will say that this cigar, I've had it twice now in the last month, because actually one of Jonathan Herring, who's been on the show, he actually brought the new branding in. And so I smoked one, and I hadn't had it since it first came out like 2 or so years ago. And I was like, this isn't my normal go-to type of cigar. But to like what Shawn was saying, I mean, it's really enjoyable. It's kind of subtle. It's not something I'm going to like probably keep going back to, even at $12.95, $20, $5. It's not going to be necessarily my go-to type of a flavor, but I do enjoy the cigar. I think it's a nice smoke. I think it's worth trying, especially at the lower price point. I don't think it's going to bring people, like, it's not a gateway to buying $20 Cohibas. I mean, that's a budget thing.
But it is a great intro. If we're going back to the names, it is a great intro into the Cohiba name.
Yeah.
You try this. Maybe next time, hey, I like the blue label so much. Give me something else from Cohiba.
Yeah. Or you learn, like the Honduran wrapper and binder, the different types. It's got, so like, that's another thing, people say, like, Nicaragua. I don't really like Nicaraguan tobacco. I don't like Honduran tobacco. There's different regions, different seeds. There's different, I mean, it's just, you can't, I don't like, high rye whiskeys. It's like, well, how many have you had? You know what I mean?
And what,
like, someone could drink this, and they're like, I don't really care for it. You're like, all right, cool. Next time you see high rye on something, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like walk away from it. Is that, do you have the High West? Is that the campfire?
That's love the double rye. Campfire,
I know you like, yeah, but is the double rye? It's an actual rye though. It's not a bourbon. Yeah. I thought they had one that's kind of a high rye bourbon as well. Or are they all ryes?
They have a bourbon. It's the American Prairie.
Okay.
And they have a blue rye, which is a bourbon rye blend.
Yeah. So I guess my point though is that you've got different companies doing similar things, but they're not all the same. I'll get off my soapbox.
No,
there.
but what you're getting
just smoke everything. Try everything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my thing. Just smoke, and again, smoke. Don't smoke the band. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Smoke the cigar.
I'm gonna go back to what AJ said was just about Tinder Box and how you guys operate there. I've been going there for years, and I've never been to a more welcoming place. When you walk in, someone's always there they always have a smile on their face. They're always there to greet you, help you with anyone. I mean, even when it's packed and it's going crazy,
yeah,
you guys are still looking out for people. And I wish other businesses were like that, because I'd go to their places too. But it's so nice and refreshing to go in there and know I'm going to be welcomed and not have the, like, oh God, someone else is here. It's not like that there. And Shannon even mentioned earlier, and he can agree. Him and I go in there all the time, and sometimes I go in there to grab something. I'll be there for 30 minutes because we start shooting the shit with everyone, and it's just awesome. I love everything about it.
Well, that's the other thing is, like, I can't tell, and I'm sure you'll attest to this, I can't tell you how many times I've gone into Tinder Box, sat down, there'll be a group right next to me talking or whatever. I don't know a single soul.
Sure.
But guess what? Every single one of us all strikes up a conversation. Yep. We're laughing. We're carrying on. By the time I finish my smoke, I've just made 4 new friends.
Yep.
It's a
I feel
fantastic
like that's everywhere
atmosphere.
you go, first of all. And you've made 4 new friends. They may have made 1. I'm just saying.
That's a valid point. Next time I'll take a study and see what they think.
I just met the guy, and I'm ready to friend him on Facebook.
There you go. I think that's just, that's part of the cigar culture. That's where this all comes from. The bourbon culture, you know what I mean? As far as, like AJ, you were saying, sharing the bottle, when you're talking about that. That's a big part of it. So that's that. I like what you were saying, AJ, about the point. Are you friending him right now while we're doing this?
Yeah, he's talking to me.
Mid podcast.
That's amazing.
Oh, there it is. I got to confirm.
Perfect.
Confirm.
You just
As
denied
soon as
it.
you guys are done flirting.
We're besties.
Doug Ruffalo says he doesn't talk to strangers. That's actually not that far off. I know Doug. He's been on the podcast, and he doesn't really talk to many strangers. He's nice, but...
Doug, come talk to me, buddy.
AJ's going to talk to you.
You can listen.
Nate, what do you got?
Don't give your last name.
I think we've talked about this before with some other cigars. Do you think that this cigar, like if you had a customer that said that they didn't care much for Cohibas, if you took the band off of this and gave it to them without telling them what it was, that this would be something that they would enjoy?
Well, it depends what they normally enjoy. If they mention other things along the lines of this, like, medium or lighter side of medium. I know that, Shawn, you were saying the other week, you like the Flor de las Antillas.
Yeah.
If someone likes the Flor de las Antillas, for example, I'm not saying these are like on the same flavor overall, but if you like a Flor de las Antillas from my father, I would encourage you to try this. It's going to have different flavors. I think this has got a little bit more of that woodsy, like, again, that spice where the Flor de las Antillas doesn't as much. But I think you're in the same realm there. It's going to be different, but it might hit some of your other flavors there.
I just had a thought when I was smoking on it. With the price point and the flavors that you get, I think this is something that if someone likes the Espinosa Laranja, this might be something that they would enjoy as well, because the Laranja to me is on that lighter side of medium, and it's around the same price point as what this is. So I think if someone likes that cigar, I think this one might be another one to branch off of and try.
I would absolutely agree with that.
You think so? Yeah, I can see it, I guess.
However, I think that if you try both of them, which I highly recommend, I think I would probably just edge out that Laranja. Eric Espinosa makes great cigars.
I agree.
And
get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But no, I think that's a great smoke, and I think Nate is dead on with the fact that realm, these 2 cigars, definitely you got to try both of them.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the pairing here. So once again, Cohiba Blue, smoking the Toro size, we have the high-rise small batch called Heigold from Rabbit Hole. What do you guys think going back? I know you already kind of mentioned something, AJ, like how you like going back and forth or the way you described it. Shawn, how about you? What do you think for everyone out there that has not had the cigar and or the whiskey, but together, would you like this? You dislike it? What do you think?
I love it both. I mean, they go hand in hand, in my opinion. I think there's, as AJ said earlier, there's a little oomph to the
back to that oomph.
Back to that whiskey. Back to the bourbon. But the cigar kind of complements that. So you have the oomph and then the smooth, and then I like the back and forth with that. So
AJ?
I mean, I think it's definitely they definitely complement each other, like what Shawn was saying. I think that taking a little sip, just enough to get your entire palate, and then going to the cigar, it really makes that rye stand out. I would pair anytime I have people over, if I know for a fact, hey, we're doing a little get together.
Yeah.
Let's drink some bourbon and smoke some cigars. This is definitely a combination that I would look towards.
Yeah, I would not say that this is a starter bourbon for anyone. Like, I think you could, like, if you're not really into it, you could try it. I don't necessarily think that I don't really drink whiskey, this is not the one I'm going to bring over.
I would agree with that.
If you like whiskeys, you like bourbons, you like different types of whiskey, you like some rye, you like all that stuff. I think this is one that I would bring over, like I said, about like my brother's father-in-law. If it's something like, hey, I normally drink vodka. This isn't the one I'm going to introduce you to whiskey to. I don't care if it is a $70 bottle or not. It's just not one that I'm going to throw at you.
If they like vodka, then you might as well just find 5 bourbons so that we can get them to like bourbon.
Right, yeah, give them a crash course. The cigar, I would say, this one, at least with the one I'm smoking right now, and I don't know about you guys, construction's good. I've got a little tight of a draw, as far as that goes, but you don't, Nate? You too? Yeah, so again, that's 1 out of 4 that I got a little bit, and I'm obviously talking, so I have to relight it a few times. But overall, I'd say the two of them go well together. The reason I picked the Cohiba Blue for tonight, we haven't done a Cohiba yet. I think this is, like I said, an entry level for anyone that wants to try the brand, to your point, AJ. And I didn't know much about, other than it's a high rye bourbon. I looked at the mash bill. But I like the other rabbit holes that I've had, but I didn't know what it tasted like. So I picked kind of that middle of the road.
Yeah, I was gonna say Steve saw blue on the Heigold and blue on the Cohiba, and he's
I'm not that smart.
Perfect. They got to go together.
You got to coordinate.
And I have a blue sweater on. Is that what you want to talk about? Okay, cool.
It's a very nice sweater.
Thank you.
I just wish it was on a better person. Shawn would look good in it.
Shawn would look better.
You want to switch out?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Nate, what do you got? Let's stop talking about the sweater.
I think the whiskey actually enhances the cigar, because the cigar is not very full body, full flavor. It's on that lighter side of medium. But the viscosity of the Rabbit Hole, the way it just coats your entire palate, when you take a sip of it and then take a draw of the cigar, you get more flavor from both. Like the flavor of the cigar lasts in your palate a little bit longer.
I get you. What do you think, Nate, while we have you? Because I think you're the only one that retro. You guys don't retrohale, correct?
I'm not as sophisticated as you guys.
That's for sure, but can you retrohale?
Huh?
Nothing. Nate?
I'm answering comments.
I think through the retrohale, again, not much spice. It's got kind of a dry, cedary flavor to it through the retrohale. Really no burn on the retrohale. Now, if you're someone who doesn't retrohale very often, then you might get quite a bit of burn in it.
Yeah.
But that's just because you don't retrohale.
I like it.
If you've never retrohaled, you can get a burn in your nose from a mild cigar.
Shannon just
yeah.
But with this one, there's no burn, but you get a little bit more of the cedar, the wood note from the cigar in it, and I think you pick up just a little bit of that Nicaraguan more in the retrohale than you do just in the draw.
I think this would be a good morning smoke. Absolutely. That the retrohale, like that spice and everything like that. I don't know. I'm gonna paint you. Maybe it's this the lumberjack look you got going on. I think like in the you're in a cabin, you know what I mean, overlooking like a valley of nice trees.
City roast, medium cigar
I was
from
gonna say,
Jennings
with a good
Java.
cup of coffee or tea.
Ooh, yeah.
I think you're a lumberjack / surfer. You got the blonde hair. It kind of gives a surfer look, too.
Well, I just came from the ski shop, so I snowboard.
Well,
Nailed it.
Yep.
Thanks for the stereotype.
See?
Well, you're living it.
This is a soulmate thing, brother.
I
We're
love
already
it.
friends on Facebook.
We're connecting so
we
well.
are.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, with that being said, these two lovebirds on my my left here, we'll get to know both of them a little bit more. Anything else on the cigars or whiskey, guys, at this point? Obviously, we're going to keep doing, talking about it in the second part as well, but yes, sir.
I will say this. With the whiskey, obviously not everybody wants to go out and buy a $70 bottle that they've never had before. If you can find it at a restaurant, absolutely get a pour of it.
No, that would be. It's always a good way to go. People look at it a different way. Where like, I'm not going to pay $15 or $20 for a glass of whiskey that I can just buy the bottle. But it's a great way to sample it. Mm-hmm. I agree completely. Keith Lawson says they should hug. I'm sure there's going to be some hugging it out later.
Maybe part 2.
Consider
part
it done.
2 for sure.
By the way, I got to say something real quick.
Go ahead.
A lot of people are commenting that I missed a fist bump from AJ. I have no peripheral vision. Shannon brought that to everyone's attention. Thank you, sir. You'll understand that later in the next hour.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, but just
nice segue.
Don't think that I'm ignoring him because we're meant to be. So anyway.
Oh my gosh! I hope your wife and your girlfriend are watching. Billy says they're Facebook official. Now, this is going to get possibly weird. I want to thank you guys for listening to part 1. I do want to encourage you to listen to part 2. I put some of it out there on social media.
Yep.
I shared, thankfully, because Shawn shared it with me, but shared his video that he had. It's a YouTube video. There's a link on the Bourbon and BS podcast pages. They're on the community page as well. But I definitely encourage you guys to check it out. But you're going to learn a lot about him as well as AJ's contribution. I mean, everyone's got, the topic for part 2 is it isn't over. And I know a lot of people, go to, they start drinking whiskey, not to drink their sorrows away, but sometimes that happens. You start showing up at cigar shops because you're going through some shit. Mm-hmm. And, I think there's some powerful stuff coming up in part 2. So if you guys have listened to the whole part of part 1, and for those of you listening on the live video or watching on YouTube, stay tuned and then also click on 96.2. For part 2, I want to thank our sponsors for the part 1 here. Again, Tinder Box at Easton for the Cohiba Blue. It's definitely a winner, it seems like, at the table here. And also, Altadis USA. We're going to be firing up the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez, another killer smoke. So thank you, Altadis USA, for making that happen. Also, BS Cigar Company. Guys, check it out. I want to say the Cohiba, for those of you listening to this part, we didn't mention in the beginning. I'll mention in the beginning of part 2. This week, if you guys want to call in, or if you're in the Columbus area, come to Tinder Box at Easton. Our sponsor has allowed us to do 15% off the Cohiba Blue. We have 2 sizes. It's going to be the Toro and then the Rothschild, the Robusto. And then those are going to be 15% off until next Wednesday. So you can call in. It's a minimum of 5, but we'll do 15% off, again, at $12.95 for the Cohiba. I think this is something that you guys should definitely try. If you're in the Columbus area, you can pick up one, whatever you want to try.
So it is 15% off of $12.95.
Correct.
I definitely think that at 15% off, it is a steal.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's definitely it's a good way to try
day.
this. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
You can buy it every day this week.
I'll do it again.
And then also, so thank you guys for tuning in. But so 15% off. Also check out our Patreon page. We do have a handful of patrons. I'm going to get into that a little bit in the second part as well. But it's a way to keep this thing going as well and kind of help us out with. We just bought a new mixer board, so luckily we don't have Nate back there basically dancing with all the chords trying to make sure it's going. So those types of things help out. So if you guys want to contribute, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS. It's all Bourbon and BS podcast is all on all of our social media. So thank you very much, guys. Cheers for part 1 here.
Cheers.
Everyone out there, have a great week. If you're listening to this, safe travels. Cheers.
Yeah.
And don't go away if you're on Facebook Live. We are not done. So
the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. Yeah. We can go. You go straight into it, or you guys need a break?
We need a...
Yeah, hit the head. That's fine.
we need a...
Huh?
I'm gonna break it.
Report? Yeah, don't break the whole garage there. Just part of it. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's a conversation thing, so it's kind of hard to keep it in mind, but talk to the mic, try not to turn as much.
Yeah.
Your level definitely goes down when you turn.
You're doing
I was
fine. You're
trying
doing
to
fine. You
keep-
look great.
Okay.
Don't worry.
All right.
All right.
Nobody wants to hear me talk anyways.
We all want to hear you talk.
No, yeah,
right.
I definitely get what you're saying as far as... So when I turn, I'm kind of turning away from
We're
it,
still
basically.
live, by the way.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
We're working on how I
So
should
for those of
turn.
you doing a podcast at home, this is important lessons. Yeah, get that beard out there. The next part, for those of you guys listening on the Facebook Live while Shawn is in the restroom, he's going to get into a little bit of a story for those of you that didn't see the YouTube video, but this is something that he and I were talking actually after a podcast several weeks ago. And it ended up just being, him and I in the garage and everyone else is kind of gone. And he lives in the neighborhood, so we were just kind of hanging out, having a few more drinks. And we really got to know each other. And this is a pretty impactful story. He's had some health issues, but that's I think, kind of saying it lightly. So he's going to get into that. We're going to do a little bit of an interview with him and have him share his story. So tune in. This is going to be where, again, we're going to be drinking, obviously, you said a re-pour.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
Another, okay. We're going to have another glass of the Rabbit Hole. But, so that's what we're going to get into in this second part. We got some Heaven Hill.
We got Heaven Hill. We got Rabbit Hole. We got Dickel 12 and some
have one
Hotel
more of that.
Tango.
So I'm going to go ahead and do one more share to groups. And for those of you out there, sorry for the slower part of this. So just kind of fast forward as you don't see Shawn on here.
Yeah, I'm not arranged. Of course, it makes my sexy belly, but
I wouldn't say they missed it.
I wouldn't say they would either.
All right. Nate, are you about ready to go here? Nate, what did you think of the pairing for the people that are listening on the Facebook Live? If you want to chime in there.
I think I summed it up pretty well earlier. Like, I think the Rabbit Hole stands alone on its own. It's a great whiskey by itself. The cigar, it's on that lighter side of medium. So it's a good cigar if you're just getting into Cohibas. It's a good morning cigar. I like what AJ said, pairing it with a cup of coffee. I may do that this upcoming Saturday when I'm at the shop. Go to Fido's, get a cup of Jennings Java, and then maybe smoke a Cohiba Blue Toro with it.
Yeah.
But I do think that the quality and the thickness of the Rabbit Hole Heigold enhances the cigar. You get more flavor from the cigar because of that whiskey.
Yeah.
But also the cigar helps the whiskey itself because you taste a little bit more of that rye. It's a high rye, but let's face it, 25%. That's not a ton, but especially if you're someone who likes ryes, because I've got some bottles of straight ryes. So it's still very enjoyable. I get a lot of sweetness at the front of it.
Yeah.
And then, like you guys said, that little bit of spice just kind of creeps in the back. But overall, I think it's a good pairing because they both enhance each other in different ways.
Fantastic. It's a good description. You guys ready to roll? Or you guys stop flirting? You guys done?
We're whispering.
I'm sharing it right now.
So sweet. All right, go ahead and let's go ahead and start the audio. Let's get the show on the road here,
right.
folks. Happy Whiskey Wednesday continued, everyone out there in all the podcast audio land and all that good stuff. So this is episode 96.2, and the topic tonight is it isn't over. It isn't over. We are still smoking the Cohiba Blue. At least I am. Are you guys still smoking that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Cohiba Blue. Still, we just about killed the bottle that AJ did not want to kill originally. There's still a little bit in there. In fact, take that off the table. I think that's done. Take it home with you.
You sure?
I think you should.
I mean, this is what happens when you
or
have
if Kyle
great...
wants to take some pictures of it. That's fine. We've got the H. Upman from this is Nicaragua, AJ Fernandez, and then also BS Silver. So, yeah, thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton, for providing the... You guys got this?
I was looking for
Act like you've been here
I was
before.
looking for the lid that was already on it.
All right, that's genius. Good thing, yeah, you might not want to pour that again. So, again, thank you to our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton, for the Cohiba Blue, the weekly featured cigar. That's going to be 15% off at Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. You can call in if you guys are not in the area, and then also you can stop in, grab them, 15% off. You got Altadis USA, which is going to do the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez. That is not on special, but it's a great price for the Toro. It's $8.95. It's a killer stick. I'm looking forward to smoking that as always. And then also the BS Cigar Company. I've got the silver on the table. For those of you that didn't listen to the first podcast, you guys are interested in the BS Silver. It is available. Again, we ship. You can buy them if you're in the Columbus area. Espinosa blended it with us, and we had a great time with that. The BS Gold, we're looking at still the first quarter, but we're looking at closer to March. So I want to encourage everyone to share the podcast. You guys review it. We haven't had a review in a while. We still have all 5 stars, and appreciate that if you guys are enjoying it on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Luminary, Overcast, whatever else you're listening to. We're pretty much on most of them. And for those of you that are on Facebook and you're just tuning in or you're watching on YouTube, please share it. Start a watch party, whatever you want to do. We appreciate all the support. We do have a Bourbon and BS community page, so check that one out as well. It's different than our Facebook page. It's on Facebook. It's a way to continue the conversation. So this is something that not only are we going to have the whiskey and the cigars. You guys can post what you're smoking, drinking, but also continuing the conversation. It's a great community. We're already at 400 plus strong. I want to say 430-ish or something like that. It's in that ballpark, pushing 450. So within a month or so, it's been a great growth of the group. And then I also want to mention, and I'll kind of get into this a little bit, on one of the reasons I like that we started a Patreon page. Not everyone's into doing the monthly contributions, but I'm thinking of new ways that we can use some of the funds from that. Not only do we get a new mixer board, so it's the cost of doing the business of this podcast, but also something that I think that you guys might see some value in. So check us out, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. I really need to learn what that is, because I keep acting confused, I don't know what the actual page is. It's linked on all of our stuff. So yeah, check that out. You can do $5, you can do $2, you can do $10, you can do whatever you want. I'm working with our sponsors for some gifts for you guys as well. If you set up tiers on there, and we do say $5 a month, I'll have something out there. I also want to do some kind of monthly or quarterly contest for any of our patrons on Patreon. So we'll do some exclusive stuff for people that are contributing to that. And then, like I said, we've got something that want to contribute, and that we'll get into that with this topic. So we have tonight, for those of you on the audio haven't been tuning into the first part, we have AJ Kazmierczak on, Jennings Java, ski shop, cigar smoker, coffee drinker, lumberjack,
Craft enthusiast. Craft beer.
You like to do arts and
coffee.
crafts?
No, not arts and crafts. I'm a terrible artist.
Okay.
I appreciate good art, but coffee, bourbon, cigars. What am I missing? Craft beer.
Yeah.
Huge shout out to Nocterra, if that's okay. Nocterra Brewing.
Do whatever you want
Powell.
on this podcast, pretty much.
Wonderful.
You're a bow hunter?
Yeah, you know
You're
what?
a hunter.
I usually don't like getting into that because a lot
All
of
right,
people
moving
aren't
on
too
then.
keen on it. But I am a proud bow hunter, absolutely.
Yeah, you're so proud you don't want to get into it. And also Shawn Wilkinson. Sorry. Yes. Shawn Wilkinson, who we're going to be talking. Snow surfer, Doug says. Shawn is a friend of mine and has come into the cigar shop quite a bit, but I shared this on the Facebook feed when you were actually inside there, Shawn. But this podcast kind of really stemmed from late night garage conversation, if you remember. Yep. We started getting to know each other as far as a little bit of each other's story, and then we started talking about health issues, and then it kind of opened up a big thing that you shared through your church, I think, was the video that you shared with me that I put out there on Facebook. Yep. So it's a heck of a story. It isn't over. The whole topic tonight, while we're sipping on the Rabbit Hole, we're smoking on the Cohiba still, is basically, I'm going to throw this out on the table, and then we'll kind of get into Shawn's story here. But, I mean, AJ, you feel free to chime in as well. But this is something that when things, I mean, I think you'll kind of get into this as well, but it's when things seem like it's over. I mean, it's like whatever it is, whether you get fired from a job, you get we talk about relationships a lot. You don't know what to do with a relationship you're in, romantic or otherwise. You're at wit's end about something. There's something where you're basically at the very end of whatever the situation is, and you may not have any control over it really at all, other than to acknowledge it, accept it, and try to move forward in the best way possible. And that's where the topic title of it isn't over. That's got to be a mentality that I think we'll learn a little bit from both you guys and obviously the audience as well.
So I told Shawn earlier, we had never met each other before this, but after Steve told me who I was going to be coming on with, and he shared your video with me, I mean, it's only a 5-6 minute video, but I think I watched that thing 4 different times. And the biggest thing that I took away from it, as well as something that I utilize in my everyday life, is that if you're still breathing, you can still do something.
Yeah, do something. We had a podcast where don't just sit there, do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you wake up, obviously, when you wake up in the morning, you have the ability to go out and do something. And I can't wait to hear Shawn talk about his story with all the listeners and stuff like that.
So, Shawn, when we were sitting in the garage, we were talking about it, and the video, you did a great job. It was a great video about it. But
Thank you.
So take us back. You don't have to go back to, like a little boy with dreams back in, like whatever year that was. But I mean, kind of what we were talking about. You had, obviously, you started before you were diagnosed, right? Where you start the story about like you and your now wife.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about it, because this is, I mean, and for those of you out there, like I said, and you're listening on the audio, it's some powerful stuff. So.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the video, I'll just kind of give you a quick story of what it's about. Back in 1999, I was dating currently my wife now, but at the time we were engaged. About September of '99, we were just pre-marriage jitters and not sure what we're going to do. If should we get married or not? We decided to break.
Why'd
it
you
up.
have jitters?
I was young and just not sure. No, both of us were. We were actually going to counseling. We were doing couples counseling.
Yeah, you
before
were
that.
telling. That's what I'm saying. You were
gotta get
telling me
into
about
that.
that.
Oh
You
yeah,
went to-
we broke up in counseling, and Teresa, I know you're watching, but she told the counselor to F off and told me to F off, so it was a very awkward situation.
Did you pay the fee?
Well, it was awkward when we were doing the copay because we had to wait.
Exactly.
It was after she told me all that. We sat at the copay, to pay, and we're like, this is the most awkward silence I've ever had in my life.
That's
You
awesome.
you didn't put that in the video.
No, I'm not going to put that in the video. I saved
That's
it for
why I
the
asked him.
podcast.
That's why I asked him about
Yeah,
it. 'Cause I
yeah.
wanted- it was good. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
So we went out the parking lot. She gave me the ring later, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun. So anyway, we had our reasons, so we did it. And 2 weeks later, before that, I was starting to have vision problems, and I was getting checked. I was getting glasses, and I still had like a blurry sensation in the upper left quadrant of my left eye. The ophthalmologist was like, yeah, this is more than just that. Go see a retina specialist. I went there. My eyes were fine. Go see a glaucoma specialist. They were fine. They said, you need to get an MRI. And when I got the MRI, they found a brain tumor on my optic nerves and on my pituitary gland. And it wasn't just a simple, mass. It was almost like you could say like an octopus. Like it was everywhere. It wasn't just a mess. It was stuck.
It was
to everything.
spreading
So
already.
stuck to everything.
Yeah.
So when I got that call, it was very. I remember I was hyperventilating. Everything was really surreal at the time. But as soon as I got that diagnosis, I called Teresa. And she immediately left work and came to see me and never left my side ever since. And I think the important thing that we learned from that is, we had our differences and we had our reasons, but when you get hit with something in life like that, it puts things into perspective very quickly. And it makes you realize how much you care for the person you were with. And you can kind of overlook those issues that you have as a couple and realize this is just a bigger thing. So once I was diagnosed, I went for 2 weeks without knowing whether it was cancerous, benign. It's just I had to wait for 2 weeks to get my surgery.
How much time had passed between the time that you walked out of that counselor and you went to all these doctor's visits? You know what I mean? Like you guys had kind of stayed in touch, right? I mean, between that, but you were like, it's done. Like we're walking away for now.
We were still talking.
What's the timeline between like the fact you walked away and then you got this diagnosis and you made that call?
2 weeks.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah. So in that 2 weeks, we were just trying to figure out what we're going to do with our lives. And, that I think, God had a way of saying, oh, I know what you're going to do with your life. I'm going to give you this. It was one of those things where that night was rough, but I remember the next morning I had this overwhelming calm of like, we're going to beat this. I don't care what happens, positive thinking, prayer, obviously. I was never afraid to die if I thought, if it were to come to that. I wrote letters to my family and my, Teresa and my funeral because I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. I don't know, even if it's benign, it's still, they split me from ear to ear. I mean, I have a scar. My hair's long now, but it goes from ear to ear. Pull my face down. There's big sections of my skull.
They pulled your face down.
Yeah, I wanted them to film it. I wish they would have.
I was to say in the video that he shared with his church, that is so mind-boggling to me that they put him under, and based on what everything that I'm hearing, they literally ear to ear and just almost, for lack of a better term, like a blanket, pulled that part your forehead down, basically. Like that is just absolutely, like, you can't fathom going through something like that.
The biggest disappointment is I wish they would have filmed it. I would have watched it.
I
was fascinated by it.
There's probably some like horror movies you can watch.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you
dude.
get an idea of what
I'll
it
watch
looked like.
It doesn't end
Face
as well.
Off.
I'll watch Trauma Life in the ER and stuff, man. They have those surgeons. I'm like, oh, that's what I look like, And I'm like, But anyway,
probably best you didn't see.
I'm so for it, man.
That's weird, man.
I know.
I'm sorry.
It's,
Not to take off the
hey,
powerful
you know what?
story here, but that's
once you
fucking
live
weird,
it, once you live it, you're just kind of like, oh, I wonder what that was like, But people have their own.
You
reasons.
talk about the scar. It's funny. Like you have to point it out. I'm sorry. Like you. I mean.
Yeah, it's
you have a
again,
hairline, which I am a little jealous of.
I've got long hair, but there, you can kind of see it like right here.
Yeah, but
and then
you really have to point it out, though.
Right here, then,
Now, not to side skirt from your story, you need to tell this story, but I have noticed since we got in the garage, every now and then you'll put your hat up and you'll kind of rub that. And do you notice that at all, or is that just something that you do now?
it's not that. It's just my
you
hair
just had
is
an
matted
itchy
down,
head.
It's bugging me. Yeah, that's all.
It's a fair
Yeah.
question. It's a
I
fair
thought it was
question,
gonna be
yeah.
Yeah. No, for the first few months, my head was completely numb, so I'd touch like all around here, and there would be no feeling.
Just from the procedure,
yeah,
or they?
Because
were they-
I should show you a picture on Facebook. There's Staples scar, like they stapled me. They
Yeah.
stapled me, and I remember coming home and having we came home on Halloween. I came home right
Perfect
after,
day
and
for
I
this,
gave
yeah.
kids Halloween candy with my scar, and they were like, "Are you Frankenstein?" I'm like, "Nope, this is real. You want to touch it?" And they're like, "No," and they ran away. So
next year,
I
there's a
like
little-
this
there's a little
guy.
light on trick or treaters the next
Yeah, I
year,
know.
just so you know. I think.
So anyway, so those 2 weeks it was rough, but I remember being very confident and knowing where I was going to go if things were to turn out bad. But the one thing that I think that stuck out with me the most during that, the hard part was like if I were to die, leaving my family and friends and Teresa behind. That was like the hardest part I had to deal with. But
Right.
the biggest part was how incredible she was. Teresa was with me every night after that and never left my side. And that just shows the love we had for each other and how God kind of put that in our way to say, I think you need to stick together. So we did. And when I had the surgery, I remember being very confident. My parents are Catholic, and they sent a family priest in to kind of like pray with me, not to give me last rites or anything, so nothing like that, but they were just going to pray over me and make sure everything was good.
For good measure.
Yes, and just in case.
Either way we go.
Yeah, either way it's a
God
win-win
blesses
for
you here.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So, but I remember him leaving he kept looking at me funny, and then he left, and he told my parents, he's like, I'd pray for him, but I think God's already with him. He saw it, in my eyes, and I didn't say God's with me. I was just like, I'm ready to go. I know what I need to do. And when they had the surgery, when I got out, the surgery, it was a rough few weeks just being in the hospital. I have no peripheral vision because it was on my optic nerves. They took it off the pituitary. They took everything out, but they damaged my optic nerves and my pituitary gland at the same time just
On
because
both eyes.
Yeah, so
Which is why he missed the fist bump
right.
earlier.
So if I'm looking
I
at the
think he
camera
saw
right
he was
now,
ignoring you, but-
I'm looking at the camera. I can't see these guys right now.
It's probably best.
Yeah. So you can. So when my wife and I get in fights in the car, it's awesome because I can't see her doing the body language.
But she
and
knows
fit.
that, so she's going to get more upset.
Yes,
It's
she
like,
does.
look at me when I'm talking
Very
to
much
you.
so.
Like that's like a new meaning, not to make light of it, but like it's literally like if I was your wife, it'd be like, even if you like look kind of to the side, it's like, no, look at my, like me and my face, my eyes.
Sorry,
like,
I'm driving, hon. Can't look at you.
I bet your guys' road trips are phenomenal.
Oh, we've had a couple.
a couple doozies.
Yeah, I wish I should have asked her about the. I won't. It's the story, but embarrass
Stick
her.
with the main story,
I know,
okay?
that's
Have
all
another
right.
sip of whiskey.
Yeah, I will. All right.
Because and
All right, sorry. You guys keep interrupting. All right, you're sidetracking me. So anyway, so I lost my peripheral, but for the first 3 months I had double vision plus no peripheral. So I could only look out of one eye, but then if I look out of one eye, half of the eye is completely black and the other half is light, so the outward parts are dark.
Wow.
But if I opened both, I had double. So eventually my eyes corrected like 3 months later. But, that was a trying time. But then it was trying to adjust all my medications because when your pituitary is damaged or doesn't work, it controls all your hormones, thyroid, testosterone, to name a few. So after all that was done, we got through the surgery. It was just a matter of healing. Teresa stood by my side every step of the way, even after, during the recovery. And then on. And about 4 months later, we went on a walk in a park somewhere, and we sat on a bench, and she got down on one knee and re-proposed to me and gave me those little watch. It said on the back, "This time is for real."
Now, hang on a second, because we got to backtrack because you skipped that part.
What happened?
The bench is very significant because the first time, at least per the video, the first time you proposed was on a swing,
Yeah.
or a bench or
Yes.
some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's cool the fact, I don't know if she had any intent on it playing like that, but I think it's cool that you proposed initially on a swinging bench or a bench or something to that extent, and she kind of kept with that kind of theme and then
Was that
re-proposed
intentional?
to you.
Was that
Do you have any
intentional?
idea? Have you asked?
No, I'm seeing it. She's watching, so I'm seeing if she's going to comment. I think it was just blind luck, actually.
Let us know.
Yeah.
But I think, see, this is why we have you on, because you see the significance there. And it's a backtrack real quick. I proposed to my wife up at Lake Michigan with I have some family that live up there, and they have a house that overlooks the lake, and it's beautiful. And the first time, like the first few months after we dated, I took her up there and told her I love her on that bench, and then I brought her back 2 years later and proposed to her on that same as a swing. And it was really cool. It was a really amazing time, and it was very it was perfect. And to go through all those trials and tribulations for those few months where we broke up and went through this, I mean, coming out the end of that was her proposing to me. I think that was in 2000. So it really just solidified our relationship. 2001 is when we got married, in May of 2001, and it was, we, husband and wife, we have our quarrels, we have our fights and everything, but we, the one thing that I love about, I've been married to Teresa for over 18 years now, probably 18 and a half now, but I think the biggest thing that I credit our relationship to is that we communicate. And I think that's a big thing in couples where people get mad at each other and they get quiet and they don't know how to express themselves. And I think we've always been that way, which has made us stronger for that. We get in our tiffs, but we always talk it out. I think that's an important thing to remember.
I want to touch on that before you get further down the road here, is that things that we talked about a lot that night that we kind of got to know each other a bit more with this story and some other things. But like, I'm thinking to myself, all right, so yeah, you have this major life changing event that just basically blew you away, right? It brings up a good point, like your vision's going bad. Go see a doctor, obviously.
Yeah.
You did that, and it progressed to something that if you hadn't, if you were too stubborn to go see a doctor, yeah, you probably wouldn't be here.
I'd go blind.
Yeah, you would have gone blind. You wouldn't be here. So, what changed though? Like, you have this life altering event. Like, how did the relationship between you and your now wife? Like you said, 2 weeks prior, really, you were like, "No, we're done." It's like we're not getting along. We're not seeing eye to eye. We don't see this at this point going forward as the rest of our lives. I think you're maybe glancing over or basically just breezing by the fact, like, yeah, I got a brain tumor. I got, and now we're good. There's still day-to-day stuff. I mean, obviously you have a focus there as far as, between her and you at that time, but what actually changed in the relationship? Like, how did you decide that we're going to make this work somehow?
From when we, I think it's just what we were focused on before that. When we were engaged, we were so stressed over the wedding and what was going to happen. We got so sidetracked with trying to deal with that. And a lot of it was that. And, I was 29 and she was 24. We were pretty young, and, she was kind of getting cold feet at the same time. So there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of, she obviously said yes when I proposed to her, but after that was done, that was like, all right, now we got to plan a wedding. And that became very stressful. And no matter how much you communicated with something like that, it's still going to be stressful. And it became so overwhelming, I think, for her, because she's a type of a woman that's like, when she gets on a one mind track, and she's like, I'm on it to this day, man. When she's on a mission, it's sometimes she gets the blinders on and she goes. And I could see that in her with the wedding, and I would get stressed because she got stressed, and there with that one, it wasn't like it was inevitable. We had to do it, and we had to keep planning for that. And again, we'd only been, I think, dating for a little over 2 years at that point. So we don't know each other like we do now, obviously. And over the years that we've been married, a lot of that was, just trial and error through communication. But when we were first, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We're in love and we're going to get married. And then all of a sudden you start looking at the details and you're like, holy shit, there's a lot of stuff to do here. And then there's like, well, who do you invite? Who don't you invite? And just that alone can stress you out.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And, she was trying to go back to school and work at the same time. So she was kind of burning the candle at both ends, stressing her out. All I was doing was working and, helping when I could. But it was, I could see where she was taking the brunt of that and taking a lot of that on herself. And that's where I think that's, I, at that time I was just like, what's the problem? What's the big deal? And then we'd start fighting more. And it just, what I think it was just, we were on two different, tracks.
Yeah.
Going in different
when you're
directions.
focused on the wedding, you're focused on everything else other than each other.
Right.
I mean, at that point, everything I'm hearing out of you is that was the biggest thing that changed, is that when this happened, the focus became on each other again. Because you're right. I mean, with the wedding, when you plan all that stuff, with life happening and all this, it's like check boxes you're checking off. It kind of takes the romance out of it. I mean, you're planning. You do all this planning for like basically one day, which is memorable. You take a lot of pictures of it, but the focus point becomes the wedding as opposed to the marriage,
right? And
the relationship.
And understand, nothing life altering happened to me before my brain tumor. So
smooth sailing.
Yeah. So I played soccer.
Yeah.
I was very athletic. I was in good shape. Losing your peripheral vision, soccer was done. You gotta have peripheral vision.
You wouldn't be a good soccer
I tried
player
playing an over 40 co-ed league, and these old ladies were passing by, getting the ball because I couldn't freaking see them. It was a freaking blast. Let me tell you. But it's when that happened. It's just it's day-to-day life where people, when you don't go through something as tough as that, those wedding plans and those things can be such a huge deal to you.
Yeah.
But once you are faced with something where it hits you right in the face, and it's like, okay, none of that means shit now. The wedding is the last thing anybody cares about right now. It's just about surviving at this point.
Yeah.
So from that day on, once that was, I was diagnosed, our whole relationship shifted to a point where, like, it doesn't matter. None of that trivial shit matters. Yeah, it creeps in every once in a while, and we have those issues, but it's very, over the years we've learned to know how to communicate, and I think that's and there's days where I'm like, I'm pissed. What's wrong? Nothing. And then a couple hours later, it's like, okay, I'm pissed because of this. And it's vice versa. But
yeah, when you said earlier, like, what not to say to a significant other? What's the big deal? You said that earlier.
Yeah, I know.
I always
Sorry,
thought
hon.
I always thought it was.
No, it's just,
I always thought it was. You just need to calm down. I thought that was the biggest one.
Oh,
Relax.
God. Oh, Teresa.
Relax is a good one.
I didn't say that, Teresa. He did.
See, my favorite though, and I love my girlfriend. Big shout out to Ellie, great photographer.
Nice disclaimer.
But my favorite is, I'm fine.
Oh,
then
that's
you
the
know
That's
you're
the
in
fucking
trouble.
worst. No,
That's the best.
Then
yeah,
you
or
know
not
you're
the best,
in
it's the
trouble.
worst. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Because when we were first dating, and that's a good thing. Glad you said that. Because we weren't communicating, and that was what's wrong? Nothing. Man, that set me off. And then I called the Jedi mind trick that she used to play on me. Hey, do you care if I go golfing with my friends? Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't mean it's fine. It means, no, I don't want you to go. And I don't want to say I don't want you to go because I come off as a bad person. But I'm just going to, these aren't the droids you're looking for.
I think it's a 50-50 shot when your significant other's like, yeah, it's fine. And you're like, all right, fine, I won't go. And you're like, no, I said it's fine. Like, literally, it's fine. Go.
It's all about the tone. If it's that's fine.
Well, yeah, if there's a sigh in there, yeah. You forgot about the sigh part. I mean, if there's a sigh in there, I mean, that's clearly not a good thing.
At first, I didn't know the sigh was a thing, so I'm like, okay,
How do you
later.
not
And then that
know
would piss
that's
her
not-
off. Well, when I was before all this stuff happened, I learned.
Right.
I learned.
That's good. That's good.
So, I guess we can fast. Was that answer? I guess your question with how we.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big part of this. You hear stories like this a lot of the times, and I mean, your story is powerful, but it's unfortunate. Not only the circumstances, but it's unfortunate a lot of times that it kind of goes along with the old saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone.
Yep.
And taking things for granted, and I don't think that's what you were doing, but I think it applies to a lot of people. Is that you lose focus on what's important.
Yep.
And that is your scenario before all the health issues is all too common in a lot of things, in a lot of relationships, a lot of situations in life. I think that it shows that hopefully, you listen to a podcast like this, you read a book, you talk to a friend, you meet someone like yourself, Shawn. Don't wait until you go through it yourself. Learn from other people's mistakes or their stories where you can actually make a change when you realize that hopefully it will click that things aren't really in the right perspective. You're focusing on the wrong things before you walk away, before all that stuff. It's like, look at it as if, hey, if something major changes tomorrow, do I want to be with this person? Do I see myself with anyone else than this person? Because when you're talking about marriage, you're talking about just even another day dating someone. Don't waste your time. If you don't see a future there, figure out why.
I think the big thing too is people who have never gone through something traumatic, and I honestly I felt I was in the same boat when I say this. I won't happen to me. I'm especially young people. Like in their 20s, like I'm invincible. I nothing. And it all happens too much where you get that. I was blessed enough to maybe be that way, but went through something to be able to learn and be able to move forward and handle it in a certain way. Whereas sometimes something that dramatic may not end that in a good way,
No, I mean, I compare it. More people that don't go through what you've gone through is losing a loved one.
Yeah,
losing a loved one that's very important to you. There's a lot of those things where it's like, I wish I would have said I love you more. I wish I would have seen them more. Like, tomorrow is my father's birthday, and he passed away now. 3 years ago. This will be the third Christmas and third birthday. So,
Sorry,
well, I appreciate that. But it's one of those things that I really think that's something that, cheers to that. Thanks, Dustin.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll drink to that.
But
cheers to your dad, for sure.
cheers, brother.
Don't wait for that. I think that's something that, when you lose a loved one, it's kind of the same feeling where it's like it's life altering.
Yep.
But go on with your story, please.
Excuse me. Yeah, so she proposed to me, right? And we still had to plan for the wedding. But it was stressful, but it wasn't that stressful. Yeah. It wasn't that, oh, God, what are we going to do? It's just like, we had our ups and downs with it. But, again, it's your whole mindset's different. You learn how much, I felt so much more in love with her the night she came to see me when I was diagnosed because of... to me, it was unconditional. She dropped whatever she was doing
immediately
and was in my house within 20 minutes.
That's one of the things that's still so mind blowing to me is, dude, you had a brain tumor. Like, that's completely unthinkable. And really, the biggest part of your story is the love between you two. And like that's what everyone looks for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you guys went through your struggles and things like that. I thought that coming on this podcast, I thought we were going to talk more about your recovery from the brain tumor and things like that, and to hear you talk and speak, and I love your energy and things like that. And the fact that it's more so a focus on, it isn't over topic is
right.
More so about the fact between you and your now wife. Like that's absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, you kind of breezed over. Yeah, so I saw double vision. I couldn't do this. You know what I mean?
and
Like I couldn't feel my head for a while and all that stuff.
Exactly.
And then we got married. Then she proposed.
It was hard, but it wasn't. I don't know. I just looked at it as, hey, I'm alive. I made it through it. Now, what's next?
I'm sorry. Like before, what was your mindset during the recovery? Like when you got double vision. Vision is one of those things. Like if you had to lose a sense,
that would suck.
That's
the
probably
last
number
one.
one. Yeah, that's number one. That I don't want to lose my vision.
Yeah, no.
What's your mindset during that? Obviously, you have her as a rock by your side.
Yeah, I don't know. I just was more of a let's just move forward and just one step at a time. It wasn't.
Were you freaked out?
No, it's.
Jesus.
I don't know. It was.
Like,
I want to be you when I grow up.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think even. I mean, you went through it, and I don't even think you understand the severity
I know.
of what you went through. Like,
Everyone tells me that. Whatever.
yeah, I'm sure you've heard it from 1,000 other people, but like, people don't just like bounce back. Like, yeah, I got a brain tumor and I got it removed, and now me and my wife were great. And like that just doesn't happen.
Awesome.
And so the love and the feeling that you have towards your wife, and I'm sure she feels the exact same way, is, you know, I was watching your 5-6 minute video and I was like, man, they need to make a movie. Like, yeah, seriously, because I mean, it looked like I was watching a trailer for a movie. Straight to Netflix.
Well,
that's what we do now.
Does.
Disney Plus? No, because it's a brain tumor removal. Got to be Netflix.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
You know what? There's one thing in recovery that drove me crazy is my parents. I love them to death.
Okay, you have to explain
We're
that.
still off the brain tumor.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
go on with the parents.
So I had a catheter in for like a couple weeks, which
Maybe don't go into this.
horrible. And I had an IV. But they wanted me, the morning after I woke up, they got me on my feet. They wanted me to try to start walking. They got me in a chair and stood me up. But as the days progressed, they wanted me to walk more and more, and I walked down the hall, and I had a gown on. So my parents, God love them. I love them to death, and I'm very fortunate to have great parents. They're still alive. They're still with me. They're still married.
Fantastic.
But they're like, let's take Shawn for a walk. So my mom had the catheter bag, and my dad had the IV pole. My mom's fast, and my dad's slow.
I feel like this is like a team effort here.
So
It didn't go well.
No, it didn't. So I'm literally walking. How'd it go? I was this way with the IV bag, and my arm was back like this, walking in front of people
that's
in
perfect.
waiting rooms. Ass is hanging out,
Let's be
Right.
very honest here. Your mom's pulling your junk right now forward.
pretty much with a leash. Yeah.
Typical woman. Typical
Okay,
woman.
so now I understand why the walk was worse than the brain tumor.
Oh yeah, dude, it was horrible. It was, and then I'm like,
More annoying, not
I was
worse,
right in the
by
middle
way.
of like a
More
huge
annoying.
waiting room, and it was packed, and they're yanking on me
Got a
one
free
way and the
show
other.
there, man.
And I'm like, God, Mom, give my fucking catheter. Dad, give my fucking IV pole. And I'm like,
All the
walking
while
out,
you can barely see.
I'm like, yeah, just tumbling run into walls. I'm like, I don't care. No one's gonna pull on my wiener anymore. I'm like, screw that, man.
yeah. If I had a nickel for every time I had to say that,
You wouldn't have any nickels.
thank God I'd be broke. All right,
So anyway, moving forward.
let's move forward.
All right,
here. Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely. No, it was amazing.
You asked if there
It's
was any
amazing.
suffering, and that was a suffering from recovery.
That's what was your mindset?
Yeah.
It was
So
uncomfortable.
Mom, slow down.
Yeah.
So we ended up, in 2001 in May, we got married. It was great. It was one of those weddings that was it was perfect. We had bagpipes to lead us out and everything. No
That's
one knew about
awesome.
it. It was
Yeah.
really cool. But it was great. All my family was there. It was just something I'll never forget. And things were going well. And there's sort of kind of a little gap in the story where it's just like as we move forward in our relationship as a husband and wife, we would decide to have kids. So we kept trying and trying and trying and couldn't figure out why. So
But that's fun though, the trying and trying.
Yeah.
Part. Yeah.
That's not what this podcast is about.
I feel like you can't just breeze over that part.
I think you just want to know
here's the
details.
problem,
I
though.
don't.
Here's a problem with that though.
Okay.
I was on low testosterone. My testosterone was super
We
low.
talked a little. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were giving me gel, and it wasn't really doing the right thing. It wasn't
Yeah.
getting me to a normal level. So it was, but we tried, and everything was going as best as we could. But we finally decided to say, okay, what's the next step if we want to try to have kids? And they want to test me first, so I had to go to the doctor and do my thing, and they did the check, and there was 0. I had 0 sperm. And I was like,
wow.
So first thing they
Completely
do is
sterile.
yeah, so the first thing they did is send me to a urologist, and he goes, yeah, you probably got a blockage. We're going to have to cut your testicle open and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on.
Not the boys.
Let's try option 2.
So I want to make a comment. Just I think it's very important. Pulling my face down, I want to see video. Hey, we're going to have to take a knife down south. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yep.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yep, all day.
The face, who cares? The boys,
Not the boys. I'm so glad we're Facebook friends, Shawn.
all right, go ahead.
So, the urologist thought there was a blockage, so he was like, "Oh, we need to do this invasive surgery." And I have an endocrinologist who he checks my blood levels, and he's the one that gives me the medication because my brain pituitary was damaged. So I take medicine for my thyroid, testosterone. I take a steroid like a hydrocortisone to help my regulate my body temperature. So there's a lot of medications that I do take to supplement what my body can't produce. That's when I found out my body doesn't produce any reproductive. There's no like the pituitary controls that too.
So it was all related from the original procedure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're like, okay, so what are the options? Well, you can get injections in your stomach every day for a year for it to kick in, and the insurance won't cover it. It's probably $3,000 a month.
Jeez.
So
Okay.
I'm like,
Again,
what's option two?
Yeah, we're going back to option 2 here.
So we decided to Teresa. Well, about that time, Teresa's uncle had adopted a girl from China, and we just loved the concept of the fact that these girls over there are abandoned. I mean, they only have it's one child
In China,
only,
yeah.
and they stay. They always if they have a baby, they want a boy, and if it's a girl, if they know it's a girl before they give birth, they'll abort it. So as a law in China, they won't give you the sex of the baby if they do an ultrasound because they know if it's a girl, they will abort it. So, so it got to that point, we just, our heart broke for it, and we decided to look into it. And, the process itself just to adopt anywhere is a lot of work. China is one of those where they put you through the ringer. I mean, it's 3 months of paperwork, getting fingerprinted from the local government to immigration to what have you. But we wanted to go ahead and pursue that option. So we spent 2.5 years going through the process. Well, 3 months through the process, but then waiting. And it just, everything was slow and getting slower and slower and slower. So we decided, let's look for a special needs child because, first of all, it'd be great to give a special needs child a chance.
Oh, absolutely.
Number 2, it's a faster process. And so the biggest one in China is a cleft lip, cleft palate. I don't know why, but just over there and the way things are, a lot of the children over there that are abandoned, or like boys and girls, any special needs, even boys too, are abandoned. So we decided to do that, and we did some homework too. Before we actually said, let's just go adopt a child with a cleft lip, cleft palate, we went to Nationwide Children's in Columbus and talked to the plastic surgeons and said, what are we getting into if we decide to do this? And
Sure.
He gave us this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to have to go through. This is what she's going to have to go through, or he or whoever we decide to choose from. And we said, all right, we can handle that. We've been through worse. So let's give it a shot. So this was back
That's
in
amazing.
In 2007, we started the process. And then by January of 2009, we get a call from our agency, and they said they had a match for us. And it was a little girl, and she was, at that time, was probably 8 or 9 months old. Cleft lip, cleft palate. Palate went all the way back, like it was open all the way to the back of her throat. So it was like a stage 3.
Oh, my God.
So real quick, I'm sure everybody already knows, but we do have 18 people actively watching and listening in. Can you explain in short cleft lip, cleft palate for people that might not know?
It's a defect that they're born with, but there's an opening from the back of the throat all the way to the front of their mouth, and there's either one side or 2 sides where it opens up all the way, and there's a gap either on the right side or left side or both.
Yeah.
So the gum line is split. So when they have their mouth shut, their lips open, their upper lip is, or their gum line is open. So even when it's closed, you'll see that.
What's the danger of that?
There really is none in terms of, not that I know of. I mean, it's just more of just a defect that, people adjust to it.
Yeah.
It's more of it's better to have it, obviously, because, when you have something open in the back of your throat, I mean, you could hold her upside down and see all the way up her nose. So it was so you had to be careful how you fed her,
So everyday type stuff. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So danger, not necessarily life-threatening, but it's something that there's a lot of attention and care that has to go into that if you don't get it fixed.
Yeah.
If you don't get it,
So So we left in July of 2009 and went to China. Spent 2 weeks there. About the third day, we met our daughter.
Her name is
Maliana. Wilkinson.
Maliana.
Yep.
I love this.
And we call her Molly for short, but we heard somewhere where means for wished for child. And
What was it again?
Wished for child and some
Wished
other.
for child.
Yeah, wished for child.
Wow.
So
How fitting is that?
yeah, that's why we like the name.
Wow.
So we got that, and we call her Molly or M now. So, we got there. She was 16 months, only 14 pounds, very, very malnourished. She had her hair was thinning.
She in like a foster care or
She
like
was
a
in an orphanage.
orphanage? Okay.
Yeah, they
And
did,
is it safe to say that orphanages over in China are nothing like the ones in America?
it depends.
As in terms of living conditions and stuff like that?
Some are, some aren't. It just
Okay.
depends on what region they're from.
Gotcha.
I mean, hers is okay. It's just she's like the far southwest of portion of China. There's a little peninsula that sticks out, and she's way down there close to almost Vietnam.
Okay.
So, her Chinese name was Shu Sui Rong, so we kept Sui Rong as her middle name, as part of her, just to keep her Chinese heritage to that part.
Yeah.
But she was, we fell in love instantly. I mean, the look on her face, it was scary because she had taken an 8-hour bus ride with all these other kids
To come meet you?
to come meet us.
Wow.
And she's 14 pounds at a year. What is that? A year and a half?
Less
Year and a third. Yeah.
So she was a peanut. I mean, she was so little, and when they put us in our arms, I was waiting for this weight, and I was like, "Whoa,
Not much to you. Yeah.
it's full of air." No, but and every place is different. A lot of times you meet your child, sometimes it's very intimate, and you're in a room and it's quiet. Ours was not. It was an open lobby, and they were just bringing kids out, and kids were screaming. It was just
Oh, my
it
gosh.
was freaking chaotic, dude. I'll show you the video. I got a video of us of
Yeah.
us
I'd
meeting
love
her.
to see it.
And it was so.
Was that your first time to China?
Yeah.
So you got all these just new experiences.
Yeah, the first few
Talk about
days we
being
went there, they
overwhelmed.
sent us. We did the Great Wall, to kind of get acclimated. The time change because it's a 12-hour difference. So we did Great Wall, Tiananmen Square, Forbidden City, and then we flew to everyone flew to their own regions, and then got their kids and met at Guangzhou, and that's where we went. That's where the U.S. consulate is, and they make them a U.S. citizen right there. Then you bring them back to the States, and it's an easy process. But when we were there, though, I remember being pretty scared at the same time because the kid before Molly was screaming bloody murder, and I remember being like, "I want to go home. I don't want to do this
I
anymore."
hope that's not ours. So
I
even
know,
all,
I know.
even all the way over there, your
That's so
mind's in
bad.
it, your heart's in it, and then you're like, I hope that's not ours
Yeah,
coming out
so
right now.
and then Molly came out, and my heart melted, and so did Teresa's, and
That is amazing.
So we brought her home, or brought her back to the hotel room, and it was quiet, and then she started settling down, and she's laying on the bed, and she was like, Teresa and I on both sides of her. She'd look at me and then look at Teresa and just try to take it all in, and she got real calm, and then I remember picking her up for the first time. She fell asleep in my arms, and I was a freaking blubbering idiot for a few
I was going to say,
days.
you melted, didn't you?
Oh yeah, dude. It was
That's powerful.
yeah, it was just all of that, I don't know. I'd go through that. I'd have a brain tumor 20 times over just to be able to have that, what I have now. I mean, I'd never.
I can't
AJ's being blown away
fathom
by
that. Seriously, I cannot fathom, hey, I would go through having my, as you said, face peeled down to have the wife and the child that I have now. That is, if that's not powerful, I don't know what is. You know what I mean?
You nailed it.
Yeah, and to me, like I said, it was 20 years ago, so I've gone through a lot, processed a lot, and there were times, I'm not going to say it was always easy. I mean, there were times where I gained a lot of weight, or I have gained a lot of weight. I always will gain weight because
The hormones, right?
Yeah, the hormones, and it's hard to lose weight, and
it's a constant struggle. We talked about that a lot.
Yeah,
for you.
And I'm going to be 50 next year, and I think I'm a child at heart, and I'm always like, I don't care if I'm 50, I'm still going to try to do something stupid. But sorry, Teresa, I really won't, honey. I'm sorry. But no, but I'm just a kid at heart, and I always will be that way. And I think that also helped me through it too, because it was very important to have that, just to me, it's like, man, life gives you shit sometimes. You just got to take it and roll with it. I mean, you can't. In life is defined as like, it's easy to go through things when things are good. It's how you handle it when things are rough. And I'm not here to say that it's all sunshine and butterflies when shit gets rough, because there's days where Teresa can attest that I get depressed a lot. I fight depression, and that's part of the thing too. And I've gotten pretty bad a few times with it. But at the end of the day, it's always just trying to, thank God for just getting me through that day. And I remember going to see a counselor, and what helped me with it was just staying in the present and making sure that you tell yourself there's not a problem until there is one. Because I used to, try to look ahead and worry about things that may or may not happen.
Yeah, what could happen?
Yeah.
Or what if?
Yeah. And that's not how many times think about it. How many times do you say to yourself, "Oh my God, if this happens, it's going to." How often does it come true?
Hardly ever, honestly.
Yes.
But it's. I would almost say it's a natural human reaction, or whatever the pretense version of that would be.
I think it's fear.
Yeah, just like and so we start creating these crazy scenarios in our mind, like you said, that never end up coming true.
Yeah, but again, I'm not saying I just like, this is shit's going to hit the fan in 2 days. Oh man, everything's wonderful, no problem. That's not, I went through 2 years of counseling to process that and be able to look at it. And it's not like I do it every time. My wife and I can both of us, we still go through it. But what's nice is that my wife's a counselor too, so she's taught me stuff with her counseling, and then we kind of help each other out when it comes to that stuff. So when we are stressed or we are going through something we're worried about, we're each other's sounding board.
And you're open to it too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of times, with relationships, you tend not to be open to the other person basically keeping you in check, or basically seeing those signals, asking those questions. Are you all right? Like, what's wrong? All that stuff, and you're like, no, I'm fine, because you close yourself off.
Yep.
And it sounds like that's from you. It's more of that communication thing. You have to let yourself be open to have that person basically call you out, to look at you and say, you're not okay. Mm-hmm. We need to talk. You need to open up.
There's days where, Teresa and I will have arguments, and it may take a day or two for us to figure it out. And there's days she'll set me off, and I am in the other room. I'm mother effing this, and I'm losing my shit. But it's all about stepping away from it, trying to clear your mind, and talking about it later. And that's the one thing, as hard as it is sometimes, we sit there and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry I acted that way. This is why I'm acting that way.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry you're acting that way, and maybe I triggered something to cause you to act that way. And then that's how you kind of go back and forth with it. And then you figure, oh, okay, well, I didn't know you were, and it goes back and forth that way. So, and I think we teach that to Molly too. She sees that we argue, and we always try to communicate, and that has taught her to be that way too. I mean, she's 11 now, and she comes home, and if she has any problems, she's almost, you just get ready to hit puberty, and you see a lot of these kids that are just like quiet, and she looks at her phone and stuff, but she'll sit down and talk to us about, hey, I'm having problems with this at school, or hey, I'm having problems with that, or she always opens up, and it's very rare that she'll keep something in. And I'm going to say this right now. A lot of people say that Molly's the lucky kid. We're the lucky people.
It's all about that perspective.
Molly is a blessing like we've ever could never get anything, ask for anything better. That kid has, everyone says she has an old soul, and it's so true. She has a way of thinking and putting things into perspective for us, even when she was younger, to this day. And I think that's another gift that God gave me. Yeah, He blessed me with a brain tumor, but He gave me somebody to put into my life that just every day just blows me and Teresa away. And that's the, I don't pray a lot. I probably should pray more. I believe in God and everything, but mostly every day I start with prayers. Thank you, God, for my wife and for bringing Molly into our lives, because that's the best gift I could ever ask for. And
I think it goes both ways, though. I mean, I think you bringing her up in this world everything that you've already talked about, right? Everything that you have talked about your story and the lessons that you guys went through, you and your wife, that has impacted your child. So Molly has grown up in this mindset. And I'm not saying anything against what you're saying, that she's a blessing and she has that old soul. I think that's also a lot of that nurture part.
Oh,
it's not all nature. I think it's a family unit. I think a lot of the things that
nice.
you guys have done, you kind of feed into each other. You feed off of each other.
Yeah.
And you support each other. I mean, there's three of you, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's one of those perfect examples, in my opinion, that you have that thing where it's that metaphor, the example of basically like a tripod. You know what I mean? One leg goes out, the whole thing collapses. And I think that you guys, you had the two pillars, and you added a third without even realizing how impactful that could be.
Yeah.
So, well, daggone it, two things. One thing, someone get Josh Porter on the phone. We got to get Shawn a movie, damn it. Second thing is, I've heard from multiple people that, the kids are absolute byproducts, just straight byproducts of their parents. And so you're talking about how amazing your daughter is. I hope that there's a small, obviously you're never going to admit to it because you're a very humble guy, and Shannon said that you're a very humble guy. Oh, yeah. But,
he's my buddy.
I hope you realize that she is a spitting image of you, and your wife is Terry, correct? Teresa.
She goes by Terry Kate, though.
Okay, God, that's why I said Terry. But she is a spitting image of you guys, and so you're talking about how amazing that she is. I hope there's a part of you that understands how amazing you and your story is. Like this entire podcast, I've just been thinking about how your energy, your positivity, your outlook of the way that you handled things. It's absolutely mind blowing, and at this point, I'm blessed that Steve invited me on and sent me the video, and the fact that we ran into each other. Like this is just absolutely incredible to me.
I had an open chair, and
I appreciate that you went down the list, and I appreciate you went down the list and found the 11th person.
Too. Yeah, no,
and thank you everyone before me that said they couldn't do it.
No, I actually brought you guys both on together because there's a lot of that positive energy, you know what I mean? And it's funny, not funny, I guess. It's interesting to me that, Shawn, your story, even the video that you guys had from your church, that YouTube video that I shared out there to everyone, it's things that it's got this kind of melancholy tone to it. It's a sad story. And I think something like, to your point, AJ, whether or not we get a movie made off of this, but it's something where you go through those hard times, you go through the sad points of the story, whether it be a book, a movie, or whatever it might be. But it's you. Everything I'm getting from you and AJ, we've talked about how positive you are. We've had you on the podcast before, but Shawn, I got to tell you is that one of the lessons I've learned from this story is that age old again saying that you can't realize the great things in life if you don't have anything to contrast them against. So you don't have those lows. You can't appreciate the highs, which is what you're doing on a daily basis. But I also can appreciate the fact that it's not, like you said, it's not all, what was it, sunshine and butterflies? I mean, you have rough days still. It's not over. And I'm sure that you paint this picture of this angel of a kid. She probably still pushes your buttons from time to time because she's a person.
Yeah, she is, or she does sometimes. But again, there's a proverb in China about the red thread, and it's for like families who adopt, and it's a thread that travels from your child from China to the parents, that they're connected. And I see that a lot in the community. Like you see people's children that they bring home, even how the way they look, like tall people end up adopting a tall girl, or
right,
whatever, and the kids just seem to fit in, and it always seems to be that way. But sometimes in life things just kind of go by pretty quick, and you forget what you've done, or I forget what I've done, with Molly when she was younger, and then I got the Facebook memories, which I actually like because I can look back and see like, oh, we did a Beastie Boy rap together one time, and she thought she was a Beastie Boy. I mean, she walked around with the hat on sideways.
Yes,
and she was like,
yes.
I got so many pictures of her thinking she likes to break dance. She's
now this I got to see.
No, not as much now. She's more shy now. But man, when she's
become a teenager.
Yeah. So when she was younger and when she turned it on, I mean, the kid would we would take her to Easton over at like Abercrombie and Fitch, and then when you walk in, there's like this techno music.
Yeah.
We would take her there and let her dance in front of the entrance, and she would dance for like an hour, and people just. I'm surprised they didn't pay her to do it.
I was going to say, were they throwing money? Did you put a hat down? You got to put a hat
people
down.
Would like run to her and stuff.
Goes to her college education. This
You
hat.
could see to the front door this little kid just trying to break dance and doing everything she can, and with swag too. And I think her was a swag. Like if I were to give her I gave her a ball cap the other day. I got it from my work, and she puts it on. And it's just the way she's in her own little world, and she looks at it. So, kind of like that.
Yes.
She's all about
She's 11?
Yeah. Going on 30.
Yeah, right.
I got news for you. It's probably just going to get worse from everything that I've heard.
Yeah, probably. But
I hear 12 to 16 is a great time for young girls.
She can just skip that. She can go to 30. I'll be okay with that.
No, don't rush that.
I think no, and I cherish it, and I think that I lost my train of thought. What I see in her is how she is with other kids too. Like she'll come home from school and there'll be like a kid who has Down syndrome or isn't like the most popular kid or isn't treated. She's the one that'll run to them and be with them and help them. Or she'll come and Dad, hey, so and so had a great day today. Because he has Down syndrome. Some days are good, but she's excited to share with us that this little boy who has Down syndrome had a really good day, and that's the first thing she does when she walks in the door from school. I mean, that's the kind of thing she thinks of. That's how she sees things. If she sees trouble, she runs to it to try to solve to resolve the conflict.
Yeah, her scope is enormous.
Yeah, I mean, in the car, I sometimes lose my shit in the car.
We all do.
She's in the back seat, being like, "Dad, come on, man," and I'm like, "Damn, dude." It's like God speaking through to her, and you're like, "Okay." Fine.
Yeah, who's the parent here?
I know. Oh, God, she does it all the time.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I mean, going back to when we first brought her home, it was rough in the sense like every day trying to feed her. They never fed her. They gave her formula and trying to feed her.
Because of the condition.
Yeah, with the open lip.
Yeah.
You had to have a certain nipple on a bottle a certain way, and then we started feeding her. She didn't even know how to feed herself. She grabbed food and tried to put it in her mouth and open her hand up before she put it in her mouth.
Yeah.
And then, we started feeding her like applesauce and yogurt, and then we would go home and like take some beef stew and like blend it up and put in ice cube trays and freeze it and then pop it out and microwave it and then feed her every day. And it just became our way of life. And then she got really used to like eating with a cleft lip and palate. She started eating Doritos. I don't know how the hell she did it. Every once in a while, she'd get one shoved up in there and she'd make this weird face and start shaking. I'm like, I would too.
A lot of spices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What notes are you getting there,
Are
Molly?
these classic or Cooler Ranch? Are they Cool Ranch or?
No, they're a classic.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't give her the fire ones. Oh my God, that would have been bad. But yeah, I mean, and the surgeries were rough. I mean, the lip was, she came out okay. The palate was a little more painful because they had to pull everything together. And then when she was 8 or 9, they had to take a bone graft from her hip and put it into her gum line because even though they fixed the lip and the palate, there's still that gap from where the palate was, the cleft was. So they fill that in, that grows in, and then when she's completely grown, like maybe 18 or 19, she can put an artificial tooth in there and they can touch up her nose a little bit because if she's still growing, it's just not going to, it's not going to help. Things are still shifting. So, but it's
once again a continuing process.
Yeah, but we know the doctors real well. I mean, we see them all the time, and we're a big, we try to help in that cleft palate community. They have picnics, and we try to, they reach out to us to go to families that are, maybe have a child that with that
Absolutely,
and try to heal. And we're open arms with people doing everything we can to help them.
I was going to say, I will, not to side skirt from that. That's amazing that you guys help out with that kind of stuff and that you're kind of giving back to that, cleft palate community. But shoot, now where was I going? Holy smokes, cut me off.
I'm going to
Wow.
take that glass away.
Yeah, just get that
fill
out
it
of
back
here.
Up, fill it back up.
No, what I was going to say was whoever you guys went to did an amazing job, because at the end of the video they showed, you and your family at your church and things like that. And I mean, it was almost unrecognizable whatever surgery they did.
Yeah, they did a great job. These guys are freaking magicians.
I mean, absolutely incredible.
They know their stuff. They're solid, and again, it was just, I don't know. She was like me when she went through surgery, and she didn't really know what was going, so she couldn't handle it. She didn't have to process what's going on, what's going to happen, except the last one. But she took it on. She took it on like just like a champ.
Like you.
And then when she,
by the way,
thank you. When she recovered, it was kind of like how I was too. It was just, all right, what's the next step? What do we got to do? Now when they did her her last one, her cheeks swelled up really. I mean, like to the point where like her cheeks were shiny because there was like stretching it so much. It was scary. And the doctors warned us, but she just took it on the chin.
Now, not to make light of it, but was Mom walking way too fast with her recovery as well?
No, that was. I kept my parents away from my daughter when she had surgery. I didn't trust them. No, I'm kidding.
You learned your lesson.
Well, they could hang out and talk to her. I just didn't let her touch any of her cords or IVs or anything like that.
That's
There's
good.
no
You look
way.
out for your kids.
Yeah.
So all right. With all of this, with the topic of it isn't over, one of my takeaways from your conversation, your story is it's so interesting that how similar you and your daughter are. And I assume your wife, Teresa, kind of had a similar mindset supporting you and also supporting your daughter.
Yes, and let me say something about that. My wife is my superhero. She's been through so much shit with me with that. And about 4 years ago, I had a pericarditis, which was fluid around my heart, and I started having heart attack symptoms because it was pressuring my heart to the point where they had to do emergency surgery and cut me open and drain the fluid out from around my heart. But I was having like classic. I mean, my organs were starting to shut down because my heart wasn't pumping blood because it was constricted. So they had surgery there. She was with me every step of the way there, obviously, with Molly. 2 weeks later, after I got done with that, it came back again. We were on our way to vacation out in the middle of frickin' West Virginia, and I started having had the same symptoms. Went to Charlottesville, Virginia. Found more fluid around my heart. Took more out. I spent the entire week on vacation at the hospital dealing with this again. The week after we get home, I have fluid around my lungs. I can't breathe. It was some weird inflammation issue and a virus. So they had to put a needle in between my rib cage and on my back and drain a liter of fluid out of this lung and a liter of fluid out of that lung.
You were just going to casually skip over this.
Yeah.
Like,
again, ongoing process.
like this, like this guy loves his wife and his daughter so much and can't say enough good things about him. He was going to casually skip over the fact that once again, you could have died based on that story three times.
I could have probably died more of that than the brain tumor surgery. Yeah.
Well, I mean, either way,
when I was
you have gone through stuff that 10 people over could not fathom.
The second time when I had my heart thing, my BP was 60/40 and I was tachycardic. And we had the shock paddles on me and crash car ready to go. So
you know why I picked the topic, it isn't over.
Right. I forgot to mention all that.
No, for that reason, your story's not over, clearly. But I think this is the time that I want to ask you. I mean, you talked the only time that, out of all of this, the only time that you showed a sign of weakness was dealing with what most people consider like everyday depression.
Yeah, that's the.
And I'm not saying that in a like everyday type. Like it's like I'm keeping it. It's minor, but it's the big things that you've gone through, including what you just shared. You know, about the fact that you were basically dead, almost. Mm-hmm. That none of this fazed you. That none of this, and I'm sure it did. I'm sure you had some low moments, but it's like you're only shining moment of like actual like this is the worst it's going to get is because you were dealing with a daily depression type of a syndrome, probably based on some of the hormones, probably based on some of these events. But how does one, if you're listening out there, tell everyone else, because I'm fascinated by this, because if I was diagnosed with any of this stuff, if I had a daughter or kid or a loved one that had to go through all these procedures, knowing you went into it with the cleft palate and cleft, it's what's the mindset? I'm fascinated by this. What is the mindset of a person like yourself, where you just have this mindset of like, what's next? How do we get, like, what's the next step? What's the next step? Because the one thing that was almost like that basically took you to your knees, in the story at least, was a daily depression, which is a serious thing that people deal with all the time. So I'm fascinated, because like I said, if I was diagnosed, if I had any of these issues, I've gone through some ups and downs in my life, but not something that I don't know what necessarily tomorrow is going to bring. Yeah,
I mean, it's
what do you tell someone
again with the heart thing? That lie, it was just about, for me, staying in the present. Like, all right, I got a heart thing. What do we do? How do we fix it? All right, surgery. They're bringing a guy in at 11 o'clock at night to get this done because it needs to happen. Okay, let's do it. It's one of those where I can't explain why. I think part of the reason, maybe for me, a lot of times I'm in denial about a lot of things, and I don't act like it wasn't a big deal, but sometimes it's hard for me to accept things. Even more like if somebody I know close to me were to pass away or something, it'd be hard for me to lose my shit until maybe a couple of days later to let me process it. Maybe I don't process it quick enough. I don't know. But I think knowing in the back of my mind that where I feel like I'm going to be if I do pass, that's good. It does suck to know that if I were to leave, that happened, I don't want to leave Teresa or Molly. My God, I'd never dream of that. But when it becomes out of control and it's out of my hands, what else am I going to do?
That's a great mindset.
Like, let's make something very clear.
Go ahead, AJ. Go ahead.
Let's make something very clear. I do my absolute best to make sure that whoever I come into contact with, they recognize me as arguably one of the most positive, great outlook individuals.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That being said, the hardest thing I've gone through is a shattered collarbone. That is tiddlywinks.
Yeah, walk it off.
Yeah, exactly. Compared to what Shawn's gone through, that is nothing. I mean, that's a runny nose, basically.
Oh, I tore my quad 3 weeks months ago.
All right, stop.
You had a brain tumor.
Enough, Shawn.
And
all right,
and you had paddles on you because your heart was going, had fluid on it.
Did you stub your toe this week?
It's just an appendage. That's all.
And on top of that, his whole outlook with that wasn't even, hey, I need to get through this. It was, hey, I need to get through this for my wife and my child. And
you gotta find your why. You gotta find your why.
He might be the most selfless individual I've ever come into contact with. If not, he's absolutely in the top 5.
Top 5.
I mean, this is
you're absolutely right.
If anybody wants a reaction of how I feel, Nate typed it best, which is just watch my facial expressions and your facial expressions.
I know.
This entire podcast.
Oh, it's a powerful story. I mean, it really is. And it's not over. That's the thing. I mean, that's where it's like he introduces, he throws in one more chapter. He's like, oh, yeah, by the way.
By the way, I almost died 3 extra times.
Exactly.
And
you're almost 50?
And he's just hanging out with us.
The reason I even brought that up, though,
yeah,
because I got sidetracked a little, is that the person that suffered the most out of all this was Teresa.
Well, and that's what I was saying.
She had to sit back and watch all this happen. She had to watch me go through the brain tumor. I remember her, she said when my surgery I think was 8 hours long or something like that for my brain, and she remembers they walked her into the room where I was in recovery in ICU, and it was just bandages wrapped around my head and blood just soaking the bandages.
Yeah.
And it freaked her out, to the point where she had to grab my dad and they were bawling in the hallway. And that was the start. By the time the heart thing came around, it was like, oh, this is old habit.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, he'll be okay.
That's just Shawn. Are you kidding me right now?
That's just Shawn with fluid on his heart, and they had to get the paddles out to make sure that he didn't die. But that's old news.
I'm telling you. At this
Come
point,
on.
yeah, you're gonna have a heart attack, and like the doctor's just gonna be like, "Dude, just rub some dirt on it, walk it off, you'll be fine." Jesus, you've been through this.
But I give my wife all the credit in the world. I mean,
As you should.
she's when I was in the hospital 3 months ago when I tore my quad, walking down the steps, slipping on a dog toy, which was
not important.
not a most heroic thing in the world. But I remember her sitting in the hospital looking at me, just kind of shaking her head, and she's like, "Well, we're back," and it just kind of like rolled her eyes, like whatever.
She actually, she's watching, as you
Yes,
know,
I know.
live. So she says, "Geez, hearing all this summarized, I think we need to put you in a bubble, Shawn.
I'll help fund it.
We can get some bubble wrap.
Hashtag bubble for Shawn. How about
Yeah, bubble. Start a new movement. All right, so
Teresa's a saint. We get that.
yeah, clearly a saint. Clearly a saint.
I'm speechless, and I you know me.
You're still talking though.
Yeah, but I'm talking about how I'm speechless.
Yeah, no, we get it. We get it. Nate, what do you got?
Well, I was kind of thinking. I mean, Shawn, you're talking about with your story. I mean, you had people, especially still now with your family. I mean, you have a wife, you have a daughter, you have a family that loves you, a family that you support, and you're talking about it's not over. Like, what would you say to someone who maybe doesn't have those things, who is going through, maybe not times as difficult as yours, but is going through their own difficulties, but maybe doesn't have those things to anchor them down or those things to necessarily fight for? Like, what would you say to them about, it's not over, like, to keep fighting, to keep going on?
That's a good question. I would say, depending on what it is. I mean, if it's like a tumor thing, or like, to me, I think what's even harder, and you're gonna roll your eyes at me, but I think depression's a lot harder. Because you feel alone, you feel lost, and even when I've gone through. I mean, hell, I've gone to net care. You guys know what net care is?
Yeah, you and I talked about that. It's a great program. By the way,
there was a point where I had to go to net care because I was thinking about doing something drastic.
So for the people that don't know, myself, can you explain net care?
Net care is a 24-hour, like not a mental hospital, but like a treatment place for people who are suffering depression, suicidal.
Yeah, it's a program.
Right, and you can go there.
It's funded too.
Yeah, so you can go there off the street and say, "I'm going to kill myself," and they're going to help you and put you on the right path.
So they'll deal with other things as well. Not quite as
severe.
Yeah.
Some are court ordered, some are, it all depends. I mean, just every walk of life goes into there. But back to, there's ways to, you got to find a way. If it's something like that, you got to find a way. Give yourself a reason to live. Give yourself a reason to move forward.
Well, going back to finding your why, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's overused these days, but it's very, very.
I think the biggest thing too is I think people, and I'm not I'm just giving you my opinion. It may be wrong.
That's what it's all about.
It may not resonate with what you guys are thinking, but I think that, for me, staying in the present, looking at, all right, I'm suffering right now. I'm going through something. What can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
Is it calling a net care or a place? Is it calling anyone you know, hey, I'm struggling? And I know sometimes that's easier said than done, just to pick the phone and call, because sometimes you get in that point, you don't want anybody to know that you're depressed. You don't want people to know you're struggling. So every person is different, but I just feel like, I mean, coming from where I am, it's more of a, somebody's out there to help you. You just got to find it.
Well, you got to take that first step.
Yeah. You got to want to be helped.
You talked about the communication.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a saint of a wife like you have, right, in your life right now, there's saints all around you. There's people that want to listen. Whether you do it, from the professional standpoint of net care, reach out anymore. Like, today's like just Google. You know what I mean? Net care would pop up. It's one of those things that there are people around you that care about you. And I mean, it's again going back to that. I still think all the things you've gone through, your biggest actual struggle is what is a day-to-day thing. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go through all these surgeries. You don't have to go through all these life-altering events. you can just wake up and not want to leave your bed. I mean, that's
Yep.
a sign, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
That's
and-
really, really powerful.
Yeah, Teresa can attest to it. I mean, there's days where I disconnect from them, and she's coming to me in tears, like when you get this way, you disconnect. You go in the room and watch TV and don't even pay attention to us. And there's days where I do that, and sometimes it's hard to get up and want to do things with them. We had a discussion like that a few weeks ago. She was, because I was going through some shit, and I'm not proud of it. I don't want to do that. Sometimes it's hard. I know, when we talked about it the last time, a lot of it for me is a chemical imbalance because of my brain tumor. My body doesn't produce everything that most people don't, and everyone has their own reason for depressed. But I'm just saying, for me in particular, that's what I struggle with the most. Is I don't know if I'm on 2 different types of antidepressants, and I'm going, and they're still fighting it. And an interesting story. I go to this church in Gahanna in Columbus, Ohio, called One Church, and I would go to NetCare, and I go in there, and I was starting, and I'm in a men's group with like Shannon, who's on here, and that we have every Thursdays, and we just get together and shoot the shit. And it's not like some huge Christian thing. We talk about God and Jesus, but it's more about helping each other out, being there for each other, right? And I was starting to do that, but I remember going to NetCare, and they put me in a room. They said, all right, there's going to be a social worker that's going to talk to you about what you're going through. And I remember talking to her. And so when it was done and I was starting to feel better, just talking it out, and it did help, just talking it out. That's all sometimes it takes. Being with my wife as a counselor, as hard as it is, just to get the words out to say what you're feeling can really help. It's just getting it off your chest. So I tell this girl this, and she asks, well, what, has some more personal questions. She goes, you go to a church? I said, yeah, One Church. She goes, no way, I go there too. I'm like, okay, I get it.
And there's your sign, right?
Yeah.
No, you hit a good point there. It's getting out there, because everything you went through, you had no choice in a sense, with all the procedures and everything like that. But actually making that step to talk to someone, you said it, sometimes that's all it takes to feel better. It's amazing.
And I'll kind of go into this. You guys can kind of speak for yourselves, but just like what you were saying, if you don't want to reach out to NetCare, reach out to me. AJ Kazmierczak on Facebook, at _Coffee Viking on Instagram. Reach out to somebody. Anybody that's listening right now,
Yep,
if you're
same
going
here.
through a hard time, reach out to Shawn.
Yep.
Reach out to Steve.
Well, you know that, yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we already
Yeah.
know that, but
Yeah.
Reach
Dustin,
out to
Nate.
Dustin Bovey.
Really,
Nate
I mean, so
Hale.
it's one of those things,
like
with the I know we based this whole podcast initially around whiskey and cigars, but that's the whole point of the community side of it. We have that Facebook page. Use the social media for the good, not just to post memes all the time.
But when you talk about when you guys go to a cigar shop, don't you guys talk about topics like this?
That's exactly. You're right. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Shawn, I
so
mean,
this
you've
kinda
been a
goes hand in
big
hand.
fan of the podcast, which
Yeah.
is why you've been around the garage. And now you're on the podcast. It's something that there's people around you. So find a cigar shop, find your cigar shop, whatever it is, whether you smoke cigars or not. But find your group of people that you feel comfortable. And sometimes it isn't. You can just be in that room around people with positive energy, like AJ. That's all it takes. You may not even have to put a word out
Yep.
there. Just absorb it and get that energy and all that stuff.
It just at some point, like you said, it's a very good metaphor, which is find your cigar shop. Sometimes just being in the presence of other people talking, about everyday stuff, or having a different perspective or whatever it may be, it can be therapeutic. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I love going into the Tinder Box because the cigars are great. You guys have always helped me out and stuff like that. But 99% of the time, I'll stay and I'll have a smoke, and just talking to the people in there puts me in a better mood.
Yeah.
And I'm already in a good mood most of the time. But it's like it's a different kind of feeling when you get enough people around and everybody's talking and having a good time. And like I said, it's therapeutic.
Well, I want to bring this up at this point in the podcast as we're starting to kind of close out of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, Shawn, it was interesting. I think both of you guys, everyone might enjoy this, but there's a guy, Ryan Jones, who's now part of our community here. And he if you saw the comment, Shawn,
Yep.
I've known him for don't really know him, but I've communicated with this individual for just about 24 hours. And, it's funny how, the cigars, the bourbon, everything that we do here, like you were talking about, Shawn, about, in the cigar shop and the community and how this is all part of it. This is why we did our podcast. It's not just a cigar review. It's not just a bourbon review. The life topic part of it, and it's kind of blown up from there where I think people can relate to it. So I was listening to another podcast last night live, and it was a cigar podcast, and I started talking to this individual, and it was actually one that features called How About That Cigar, and it's a cigar podcast, right? But they had Miguel on, who was on our show 2 weeks ago, right, Nate? 2? And this guy, Ryan Jones, so he's in Illinois, and he and I were the only ones really active on the Facebook feed like you guys can do for our show, and we were just talking about cigars, and he messaged me afterwards, and he said, how far are you from Cincinnati, Ohio? I said, I'm in Columbus. And he said, we go to Cincinnati frequently because my daughter is a patient over at Cincinnati Children's Hospital.
Really?
Yeah. So he lives in Metamora, Illinois. So, we had a brief conversation, and I said, I hope all is well with your family, because that's what you do. That's you reach out, you start talking to someone, and that's the type of community. He said, I wish everything is okay with her. It's a battle we've been dealing with for almost 10 years. Doesn't get easy, damn sure. Doesn't go away. So I actually, when he said that to me, I'm thinking about tonight's podcast.
Yeah. And
you coming on, AJ's positive energy and stories as well. And it's interesting. You talk about like that small world when it comes to like that. He's newer to cigars, but he was actually in Cincinnati. He met Miguel and told him about the story of our terminally ill daughter. So, Miguel, obviously, Miguel, who was on, you weren't in the garage that week. He also had a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
Similar story in a lot of ways. But so Ryan says, it's an entire rap sheet. 1.5 years old, she was diagnosed with, I'm going to butcher these, but systemic juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, idiopathic arthritis, not to mention she also has, I don't know how to say this, uveitis on top, UVIITIS on top as well. And where they live, there's not a doctor that can treat her, so they drive 4.5 hours to Cincinnati to get her the medical care that she needs. And I don't know, it kind of hit me last night because I started talking to him a little bit more about cigars and everything like that. And it's amazing how this community has grown already. And so with you coming on, I said, hey, man, you got to at least tune in tomorrow night. And he has. And he was the one that said, he even says to you now, he's not even met you, and he's been you've been actually like a blip on his map for 2 hours of his entire life right now, and he says reach out anytime.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I saw that. Yeah.
So I talked to Miguel, and I told him, I said, man, like what do you like to smoke and all that stuff, and I figured we can use this platform, and that's what I was talking about, like the Patreon thing as well. I'm not asking for money, but there's something good here as a community that can be funneled through here that we can do some things for some people out there beyond the contest and everything like that. He was talking about, getting new into cigars, doesn't really know what he likes. I said, smoke them all. He's talking about, I want some things for my man cave and all that stuff. Do you guys ever have anything like that? So what I wanted to do, I reached out to Miguel. Ryan, if you are listening right now, so Miguel is going to be sending me something that then I'm going to send out to you, but his daughter's name is, and I apologize, I got to look this back up.
Well, while you're looking it up, I would say, Ryan, if you are available, is it safe to say get him on the podcast? I would love
if
to
he can get
have
here
him on the podcast if he's able to make it.
Yeah, daughter's name is Ava, AVA. So what I wanted to do tonight, actually, with you guys on here and everything like that, so I've got some tin signs back here, obviously behind us, and what I want to do is sign it and wish the best of luck, put it up in the man cave. But from Bourbon and BS podcast, and then everyone in the garage tonight with this topic and everything. She's 11 and is still fighting.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. And so, best wishes to the family, Ryan, you, and Ava. But, we're going to sign a tin sign and everything like that so you can hang it up. And then Miguel's got a gift coming. We're going to send you a little care package. So, everything I think is so relevant with this episode. That a guy like Ryan been in my life for 24 hours, and man, it hit me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting choked up.
Yeah, I get you, brother.
So,
Hey,
yeah.
Listen, Ryan. I'm sure you're still listening. Yeah, there you are. You're still on. Yeah, let's at least friend me or whatever, and we'll do some messaging. And next time you're down in Cincy, I don't know how often you do it. Let me know. I'm going to try to make an effort to come down there and see you guys, just if it's for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it's important. You need people to be there, just to talk to. Sometimes it's good to just take your mind off of it, and whatever you want to do, we can go get something to eat, get coffee or talk, whatever. I don't know you from Adam, but I'd be willing to go down there and see you.
I'd love to see a picture of you and Ryan and the two girls.
Oh yeah, I could bring Molly down. She'd love it.
I think that'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
That would be awesome.
And when you set that up, we'll make sure to send some other gifts down.
Yeah,
there.
I'll take him down for sure.
Yeah.
I think Molly would be all about it.
Yeah. So, closing remarks, Shawn. I know this was more of an interview.
So Teresa,
give us a
real
summary,
quick. Teresa, she goes, so much love to you, Ryan, and the Ava and family. So I have a feeling Teresa will probably come with us too.
There's just a
Bring
lot
the
of
whole
love
family,
when
man.
it comes to this.
Yeah.
And this is what it all
Right.
brings. So I appreciate everyone tuning in, audio, video, whatever it is. But I mean, this is something that I've been impacted with tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It's an honor to just even be here. Like I said, I've been here for a few weeks. Just fell in love with the concept of what Steve's been doing, and just honored that he thought about bringing me on to tell my story. And it's
my pleasure.
I don't know. I've never really talked about it to this extent, other than just doing the video and telling people, in conversation. But to be able to I loved your questions, both of your questions, because it really opened me up and probed me to see different sides of things that I probably never even thought of, and brought things out of me that I never really realized I had. So I can't wait to come back on or just be there for someone else. I think the biggest thing that sometimes to a fault for me is I'd rather do things for other people than people do things for me. So the fact that Ryan's in Cincinnati, it's like, I don't know the guy from Adam, but again, I have no problem driving down there to see that guy and bringing him whatever he wants, because that's what I've learned from through all this is I'm blessed to still be here. I'm blessed to have a family, and the least I can do is go out and help other people.
Wow. AJ, you want to follow? You want to follow that?
Bub, let's make something very clear. The only reason I haven't shed a tear tonight is because I've had enough whiskey and cigar going back and forth to keep me all.
We'll get you one more whiskey
held
and
together.
Waterworks, man. Waterworks.
Big
Sean
group
and
hug
I are
after this.
absolutely gonna get a hug in after
Yeah,
this.
BFFs now,
But
man.
I'm blessed to be a part of this community. Absolutely incredible. This has been such an eye-opening podcast in terms of myself, my favorite podcast that I've been on. It's fantastic. Guys, if you're in any sort of trouble, or you're not, you're thinking, this might be it, things like that, reach out to us. My other thing, as far as what Steve was getting at, the topic of the night is it isn't over. If when you wake up in the morning and you're breathing, you've got a shot. You got a chance to do something to better your life, to better someone else's life. I know just being on this podcast tonight, my life has been bettered.
Yeah.
This has been my favorite podcast to date, and it's fantastic.
Eric Carrico out there listening, he said a while back in the podcast, you all are saints. And I'm getting choked up. I don't get choked up very often.
It's nice when that deep voice gets choked up.
Get out of my face.
It's okay. Hey, dude, it's all
Eric
good, brother.
says, I'm so happy to hear this. I'm going to hug my kids a little closer tomorrow. Had no idea how I found this podcast till today. It's something that, this is episode 96. And first one I'm getting choked up, so I'm not going to, maybe it's the whiskey, probably the whiskey. I think I got smoke in my eyes. But
Inhale too much on that cigar.
Yep.
yeah, it's the weather. It's seasonal. No, I mean, this is why we did the life topic part of it. So for part two, you guys that have listened to this, I know, like AJ, I've taken a lot from this. There's a reason that I wanted to have Shawn on here. He's got an impactful story, a very important story that people go through this all over the world. They go through similar situations. Shawn, you're on borrowed time, man.
Yep.
And I think a lot of us are sometimes when we look at it. It could be something as simple as driving down the street and you almost got T-boned and you avoided it. You got to take advantage of the time that you're allowed on this earth. Mm-hmm. And I think, Shawn, you're absolutely a poster child for this type of a mentality that even you may not, to your point, you may not even realize to this day. And it sounds like you're realizing it more and more every day. And I think a lot of people listening tonight, probably everyone that listened to the show, whenever you listen to it, can take a lot from it. So everyone that listened in tonight, I appreciate the feedback through it. This is one that it's going to be tough to top. Not all of our episodes are going to be this type of an interview, but God, I feel very, very fortunate that I was able to be a part of this, and almost took us 100 episodes to get to one where I got choked up. So I appreciate you guys. Besides AJ not making fun of me, I want to thank everyone. I think when it comes to it isn't over, this is something that sometimes you need to read a book, you need to talk to someone, you need to gain a perspective that when things are going well, like Shawn said, you don't realize it. Sometimes you look at things when you're looking at your history with Teresa. You guys about walked away from each other because things were going too well, and it was just like, you know what? It's not that important, Mm-hmm. The people in my life, life's going to go on. Then you realize that life may not actually go on. Then it's what's important. So hopefully, you don't have to go through something like that where you try to do that every day. AJ keeps talking about, you get the opportunity to wake up every morning. You can do something with it. I think this is something that when you wake up every morning, I don't want to say have that come to Jesus talk every day in the mirror and all that stuff, but have that mindset where you don't want to wait for something bad to happen to appreciate the highs or the peaks, the good in life. So I thank Shawn first and foremost for being a part of this and sharing your story.
Just love to be a part of it.
Even when we were talking about it, I asked you, can I share to the community page and everything else, like that video,
I'm glad we
and
did
you
that.
said, can I sleep on it and let you know? And I said, absolutely. If you have any hesitation, I won't share it. And then when we texted back and forth, you were out in California, and you were like, you know what? Yeah, go ahead and do it. I don't know if you were just like, I'm going to send this, I'm going to send this, I'm going to send this. No, I'm not going to send it. No, I'm going to send it. Share it. And I did, and I think that was a powerful thing.
I think it's important to see just that's the best way to explain my story with the production that was done with my church, and I can't thank them enough for that. But that's better than me trying to explain it. I mean, I kind of gave it a quick version, but that really sets it home. He sends it home. So.
Well, I know that we don't have the biggest reach, and that's one of the reasons that I want everyone to share it. It's not for our prosperity or anything like that. I mean, the reason we do this podcast is to strengthen the community, whatever part of the community that you're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether you like the bourbon, you like the cigars, you like the life topic, whatever it is. But if you're looking for something to listen to, this is something where it's like, this is a community that, a story like yours, Shawn, there'll be thousands of people that have heard it. I wish you were on a podcast that had millions of listeners, because it's a story and someone that, you're someone that people should absolutely get to know, whether it's in person or just, watch the movie that AJ's already working up in his head. So
I've got it all laid out.
You know what? I think this is – go ahead.
I was going to say, and if people do share it, and I'm sure if I'm tagged in it, feel free to reach out to me, anybody, anytime. If I can just help. And I think I told my dad then, that's one thing I'll just go back to real quick. I remember the day after I was diagnosed, my dad called me. He was very upset. And I said, if I can go through – this is the day after I was diagnosed, not before I even had my surgery. If I can go through this procedure and affect one person's life in a positive way, then let's do it.
And you have. I feel like everyone that meets you, it's something that you're going to affect their lives. And I know tonight you have, and going forward, anyone who listens to this episode is going to be affected in a very, very powerful and positive way. AJ, thank you for being on the podcast. It's
Anytime.
always a pleasure.
I have a new friend now.
And you guys, again, BFS, Facebook official. I'm going to throw in real briefly. Thank you to our sponsors. Again, we have the Patreon page. It's something to keep this thing going and all the viewers and everything like that. But to do the podcast, it does take effort. It takes time. It takes money and all that stuff. So the Patreon is a way for you guys, if you guys enjoy this, look it up, throw a couple bucks every month, and you guys won't even miss the $5 or $10, whatever it is. You guys won't miss it. You guys probably spend more than that on a music streaming service that you don't even listen to.
Save that monster you get every morning, that $2.49.
Exactly.
Send it over here.
Unless you do Bang, it's $5.
Yeah. Send it over to Bourbon and BS. It goes to a really, really good cause, and it allows Steve and the guys to continue providing great topics like this.
I want to thank Nate and Dustin every week being here. This is part of the support system. These guys get a cigar, maybe two sometimes, and that is their payment at this point. And that I appreciate the support because at this point it's grown into something bigger. And with Jake, he's got his. You don't take payment? I don't need it. Perfect. Dustin doesn't need payment. I do want to wish Jake Sanders, who grew this podcast. He's moved on to something different now, and I appreciate him, love him. I called him before his first real VIP soft opening on the new job.
Yes. Good luck, brother.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's tonight.
Congrats, man.
So if you're in Indianapolis, check out Burn by Rocky Patel. He's going to be the humidor manager. Still the same old Jake. So if you want to talk over cigar, he's your guy in Indianapolis. Thank you to Tinder Box at Easton for the Cohiba Blue. Great cigar. I enjoyed it. I know these guys did as well. I'm smoking the H. Upman Nicaragua by AJ Fernandez. I always like this cigar. It's a great bang for your buck cigar. This cigar could be not twice as much necessarily. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it could be the same price as the Cohiba and it'd still be a killer smoke. And the BS Cigar Company for the support. So that's the way that we're still doing this. Altadis is pushing through, trying to we've been talking about it for about a month or two, maybe more. They're going to be pushing through to try to get us some more support. And I raise our glasses, if could. Happy birthday to my dad tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Cheers to Bob Crane.
Cheers.
Cheers, Bob.
And guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We will see you next week. We've got another great episode next week, next Whiskey Wednesday. Yeah, this one got to me. So, Shawn, thank you very much again.
No problem, brother. Glad to be here.
I'm going to cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
To
Thanks.
all the stories, to good friends.
Yep.
Absolutely.